in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. My elder sister was the female lead in the Wife, Chasing Crematorium novel, while I was the vicious female supporting character. After my mother was murdered, I seduced the crown prince and became his side consort. My sister left in a fit of anger. According to the original plot, after she left, the crown prince would finally discover her good qualities, drown in endless regret, and embark on the long, torturous path of chasing his wife all the way to the crematorium. But I had awakened. Late that night, when His Highness the Crown Prince suffered another bout of stomach pain, and reminisced about how my sister used to brew medicine for him, I stepped forward and prepared the decoction myself. The pain vanished in an instant. When he craved green vegetable congee and remembered my sister's skilled hands, I consulted the chefs and cooked a bowl with meticulous care. Whatever he missed about my sister, I found a perfect substitute. Before long, the crown prince had completely forgotten her and given his heart to me instead. My sister waited in vain for his pursuit. Unable to bear it any longer, she returned to the capital, only to hear the devastating news that the crown prince intended to raise me to the position of principal wife. She collapsed completely. Impossible. I am the female lead of this Wife, Chasing Crematorium story. He should be missing me desperately. He should be chasing after me with everything he has. I let out a cold laugh. The so-called Wife, Chasing Crematorium is nothing but a woman's pathetic one-sided obsession. I will control the crown prince completely, crush everything my sister prides herself on, and avenge my mother. The eldest madam had summoned my mother and me to attend to her illness. She forced us to hold the medicinal stoves with our bare hands while precious herbs and thousand-year ginseng simmered inside. Mama Chu walked over with a whip in hand, her voice cold and threatening. "Second young miss, Concubine Lu, the madam is showing you tremendous favor by allowing you to serve her. This ginseng is a 1,000-year root worth 100 taels of gold per plant. It was prescribed by the divine physician himself to save the madam's life. You must hold the stove steady. If you spill even a drop, your worthless lives will be forfeit." My mother, I hurriedly answered in affirmation. The stove was scorching hot. Before long, blisters formed on our fingers, the pain piercing straight to our hearts. If this continued, we wouldn't last much longer. Not long after, my legitimate elder sister, Lin Yila, praised by all as gentle and kind, stepped in from outside. The pain was unbearable. I deliberately moved to the center of the room, hoping she would see my hands burned red by the stove and save us. "Greetings, elder sister." Lin Yila acted as if she hadn't seen anything and walked straight to the eldest madam to act coquettishly. "Mother." My heart turned ice cold. "Who allowed you to move on your own?" Mama Chu raised her whip and struck me fiercely. I cried out in agony, my hands trembled, and the stove nearly fell. My mother swiftly caught it, smiling apologetically. "Madam, Yiwa is still young and doesn't understand how to serve properly. Let me do it instead." She took both stoves in her hands. Her skin sizzled loudly as blisters quickly cover her palms. "Mother." My eyes reddened. I knelt and kowtowed toward the inner chamber. "Madam, we know our mistake. Please spare us." No one paid any attention. I kowtowed desperately before Lin Yila, almost threatening as I begged, "Elder sister, please spare us. You are known throughout the capital as a benevolent bodhisattva, wise, kind, and greatly favored by His Highness the Crown Prince. If you watch us die without helping, it will damage your reputation if word gets out." My sister looked troubled. She turned to the eldest madam. "Mother, this is their duty as servants attending to their mistress. I shouldn't interfere." The eldest madam nodded. "You may withdraw first."
Yes.
Lin Yila stood and left hurriedly, as if afraid I would continue begging her. The moment she departed, the eldest madam's expression turned icy. "Lin Yila, you dare use the crown prince to threaten your legitimate sister. How bold." Mama Chu slap her. Mama Chu viciously slapped me across the face. My cheek burned as if on fire. My mother couldn't help but cry out. Distracted while holding the two scorching stoves, they slipped from her grasp and crashed to the ground amid everyone's shocked gasps. A triumphant smile flashed across the eldest madam's face. "Concubine Liu, you deliberately spilled my life, saving medicine and ginseng. Are you trying to kill me?" "No, madam. How dare you talk back?" Mama Chu shoved me aside and approached my trembling mother, her voice freezing. "Concubine Liu deliberately spilled the madam's life, saving medicine and ginseng. This is a heinous crime." 50 strokes of the cane. Two maids grabbed my mother and dragged her outside. The sounds of heavy blows and my mother's tragic screams echoed from beyond the hall. Stop. I desperately rushed out of the main hall, only to be seized and forced to the ground. A moment later, a maid came to report. Concubine Lu could not withstand the punishment and has passed away. How unfortunate. The eldest madam said indifferently. Drag her body out and feed it to the dogs. I broke free and rushed into the courtyard. My mother lay silently on a wooden board, no longer breathing. Mother, mother! Second young miss, step aside. Concubine Lu committed a grave crime. Her body must be disposed of. Don't dirty the madam's courtyard. I screamed like a madwoman. You planned to kill my mother all along. You deliberately made her hold the stove, waiting for the medicine to spill, so you could beat her to death. Madam, you've always hated my mother for stealing the Duke's favor while you were pregnant. But investigate the truth. That year, the Duke was drunk and forced himself on my mother. She was innocent. Silence. A stern voice rang out from the entrance. Through my tear-blurred vision, I saw my father standing not far away with a cold expression. I rushed forward and hugged his leg, tears pouring down like rain. Father, they beat mother to death and even want to feed her body to the dogs. Please save her. My father kicked me away. Unfilial daughter. Who gave you permission to speak such nonsense? You've completely ruined the Duke Mansion's reputation. A sharp pain exploded in my chest as I spat out a mouthful of blood. I stared at him with wide eyes. Father, take the second young miss away. Do not release her. He gave me one cold glance and strode away. I coughed up another mouthful of blood and quickly lost consciousness. I had a very long dream. In the dream, I was the vicious female supporting character in that wife-chasing crematorium novel. The male and female leads were the Crown Prince and my elder sister, Lin Yila. They had been betrothed since childhood, and my sister loved the Crown Prince deeply. She did everything for him, embroidering scented pouches, cooking congee, brewing medicine whenever he needed it. The Crown Prince, forced into the engagement, rejected her and never realized his own feelings. As for me, the vicious supporting female with obvious ambitions, I was jealous of my sister and constantly schemed to seduce the Crown Prince. Later, while offering incense, I saved the Empress Dowager and earned a favor from her. She ordered the Crown Prince to take me as his side consort, while my sister became the principal consort. On the day we both married into the Eastern Palace, I deliberately flaunted my position in front of my sister and mocked her. Heartbroken, my sister begged the Emperor to annul the engagement with her death and fled far away. Upon hearing of the broken engagement, the Crown Prince flew into a rage, his face full of disdain. But one night, he suffered excruciating stomach pain. The servants attending him were incompetent. He suddenly remembered how my sister used to personally brew medicine for his condition and began to miss her. A few days later, after eating too many greasy foods in the morning, he recalled how she used to simmer congee for him and started yearning for her cooking again. While reading in the garden to relax, he smelled the faint fragrance of plum blossoms and felt at peace, only to realize it came from the plum tree my sister had planted years ago. Similar incidents kept happening. Finally, the Crown Prince realized he loved my sister deeply and could not live without her. Overwhelmed with regret, he rushed to Jiangnan to pursue her. But my sister's heart had already died. She rejected him coldly. She remained as elegant as a chrysanthemum, completely ignoring the Crown Prince while a devoted male supporting character stayed by her side. The devoted male supporting character constantly questioned the Crown Prince. She treated you so well. Why didn't you cherish her? It's too late for regrets now. Under this questioning and jealousy, the Crown Prince's regret deepened. He humbled himself repeatedly until he finally took a sword strike meant for my sister, winning back her heart. Because of my existence as the vicious female supporting character, my sister refused to return to the capital, declaring she wanted a lifetime of peace with only one person. To prove his sincerity, the Crown Prince rode day and night back to the capital, intending to divorce me. When I learned I was about to be abandoned, I flew into a rage and attempted to assassinate the Crown Prince, screaming that if I couldn't have him, neither could Lin Yila. In the end, I was executed as expected. Lin Yila returned to the capital and became the Crown Princess. The end. I suddenly opened my eyes wide, clutching my chest as I gasped for air. So I really was the vicious female supporting character in that story. My sister, as the female lead, was kind and pure. As the legitimate daughter of the main wife, both her background and character were flawless. But I, Lin Yila, the vicious supporting female, came from an improper birth. My mother had climbed into my father's bed while the madam was pregnant, stolen her position, and gotten pregnant herself, forcing my father to take her as a concubine. In the novel, my mother was the third party, and I followed in her footsteps by seducing the crown prince and stealing the female lead's man. From the very beginning, I was destined to be the villain. Recalling the plot, it was truly ridiculous. Why was the daughter of a concubine considered evil while the legitimate daughter was virtuous? My mother was just an ordinary maidservant in this world. Did she have any choice in becoming a concubine? Clearly, it was my father who lusted after her beauty and forced himself upon her while drunk. The eldest madam didn't blame my father. Instead, she hated my mother. All these years, my mother had tread carefully, yet the madam would punish her at the slightest excuse. With no other options, my mother had to use every means to seduce my father and win his favor for some protection. This only made the madam hate her even more. For years, my mother and I lived in extreme hardship, barely surviving. My father turned a blind eye, telling us to endure it. How laughable. Why should we be the ones enduring? After more than 10 years, as my mother aged and lost her beauty, my father lost interest. The eldest madam then openly oppressed her, eventually using the spilled medicine as an excuse to beat her to death. My father didn't even glance at her body and didn't care to preserve her remains. What damn wife, chasing crematorium story. On what basis was Lin Yila the female lead? And why was I fated to be the vicious supporting character who dies a horrible death? I wiped away my tears and gritted my teeth. I refused to accept this fate. Even if I die, I will drag all of them down to hell with me. Knock, knock, knock. Young miss, it's time for your meal. The maid Chunying carried in the food and comforted me gently. Young miss, the dead cannot be brought back. Please don't grieve too much. She looked especially concerned. If I hadn't read that novel, I never would have known that Chunying was the spy the eldest madam had planted beside my mother and me. We had trusted her so completely, making her the head maid, giving her the best rewards, even gifting her my mother's precious hairpin. Yet she had reported every single movement in our courtyard straight to the madam. No wonder the madam could always find excuses to bully my mother. I stared fixedly at Chunying. She asked in confusion, "Young miss, why are you looking at this servant like that?" I answered slowly, "Nothing. Since I'm destined to die anyway, I might as well drag a few more people down with me." The first one would start with Chunying. I stayed quietly inside the courtyard for half a month, only released on the day of the monthly greeting. That day, everyone had to go to Fukine courtyard to pay respects to the old madam. The eldest madam was jealous. In the entire Duke Fu's mansion, aside from my mother, there were no other concubines. At first, the old madam had been dissatisfied that she prevented father from taking more concubines. Later, the madam gave birth to 2 legitimate sons in one go and silenced all criticism. After my mother gave birth to me, the madam forced her to drink a toxic safflower brew, ensuring she could never conceive again. After the greeting ceremony, I deliberately raised my head to reveal my red, swollen eyes. The old madam couldn't help asking, "Yua, what's wrong?" Before coming here, I had thought of my mother's tragic death and cried desperately until my eyes were swollen. It was all for this moment. Mama Chu beside the madam snorted coldly. "Second young miss is probably harboring resentment toward madam because of concubine Lu's death. Her grievances are sky high. That's why she's crying." I immediately knelt, my voice mournful, replying to old madam, "This granddaughter does not dare. This granddaughter is crying for another reason." The old madam glanced at the madam, clearly displeased about her beating my mother to death, but only to that extent. "What reason?" "If you're crying over concubine Lu's death, then leave." I said, "The hairpin my mother left me has gone missing. It was my dowry, extremely valuable." The old madam's face softened. "Oh," I continued. "This granddaughter searched everywhere but couldn't find it. There must be a thief in the mansion. If that thief sneaks into old madam's or father's room to steal, the consequences would be unimaginable. Please investigate thoroughly." The old madam's expression turned stern. The inner courtyard cannot tolerate theft. She ordered Zhang Mama, and together with father, we led people back to the courtyard. Zhang Mama called every maid and servant to stand in the courtyard. The people she brought stormed into the servants' rooms and searched everywhere. Before long, a maid came forward holding a hairpin. "Found it in Chunying's room." I feigned shock. So it really was Chunying who stole it. Zhang Mama walked straight to Chunying. "What do you have to say for yourself?" Chunying panicked and dropped to her knees. "Mama, This servant didn't steal the hairpin. Concubine Lu gave it to me while she was alive. I immediately spoke up. Nonsense. My mother gave this item to me long ago as my dowry. Besides, such a precious object inlaid with rubies, how could my mother possibly give it to a mere maid like you? Young miss, you're wronging this servant. Chunying frantically tried to explain. Young miss, you clearly know this was given to me by your mother. She pleaded. I shook my head. Chunying, it's a pity my mother and I trusted you so much, yet you stole from us. That day when the hairpin was given, only my mother, myself, and you were present. I insist it was you who stole it. My mother is dead now. Even if you argue it's impossible to defend yourself. Knowing she couldn't win, Chunying began wailing. I want to see Madam. I belong to the Madam. Madam will save me. I asked coldly. So you admit you stole my mother's belongings under the Madam's orders? Do you know that falsely accusing the principal wife is a capital offense? Chunying stammered. No. The old Madam and everyone came to see the outcome. Father, what now? Zhang Mama reported. The thief has been caught. I stepped forward, pretending to be anxious. Old Madam, Chunying claims she was ordered by the Madam to steal. I don't know how this should be handled. The old Madam frowned. Impossible. The eldest Madam and Mama Chu followed behind with furious expressions. Second young miss, you cannot casually accuse someone because of concubine Lu's matter. I was afraid and retreated. It wasn't me saying it, Chunying said it herself. The moment I finished speaking, Chunying's voice rang out from behind. You cannot punish me. I am the Madam's person. I am the Madam's maid. Only the Madam can punish me. The old Madam glanced at the Madam expressionlessly. I said softly, Old Madam, listen. It wasn't this granddaughter speaking nonsense. Chunying shouted it herself. If Chunying truly belongs to the Madam, doesn't that mean the Madam deliberately planted a spy in our courtyard and ordered her to steal my mother's hairpin? The eldest Madam's eyes shot toward me like venomous snakes. Before, I would have been afraid and held back, but now my mother was dead and I knew my own fate. When you have nothing left to lose, you fear nothing. I looked straight at her and asked, Madam, is that true? How could it be? Mama Chu beside her shouted loudly. This lowly concubine's daughter is about to die and is spouting nonsense. Second young miss, don't take it to heart. This maid has committed theft. There are witnesses and physical evidence. Drag her down and beat her to death. The old Madam clearly didn't want more trouble and said indifferently. The matter is clear. Proceed as such. I am tired. Chunying panicked. No, Madam, all these years this servant has worked for you. You cannot watch me die without helping. Still daring to talk back. Mama Chu stepped forward, covered Chunying's mouth, and dragged her away. Before long, the sound of the canes striking echoed from afar. Chunying begged and pleaded continuously until her voice finally disappeared. Everyone left one after another. Mama Chu returned after the punishment, her face as cold as ice. The lowly servant has received her punishment. Is second young miss satisfied now? I curved my lips into a smile. You've worked hard, Mama Chu. I took out a silver ingot and handed it to her. A mama's monthly salary was only 3 taels, yet I gave her 50. It was truly generous. She immediately broke into a smile. Second young miss, this is what this old servant should do. I lowered guard and deliberately asked with worry. That's right, Mama Chu. My mother left me quite a bit of gold, silver, and jewels. Now that theft has occurred, I'm just a 16-year-old young lady. How should I protect those treasures? I'm afraid there are still unclean people in the courtyard. I listed every valuable item my mother had left me. Coral, pearls, golden hairpins. The descriptions sounded extremely real. Mama Chu gradually believed me. Greed flashed in her eyes. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. Second young miss, this servant has a suggestion for you. I nodded. Mama, please speak. Mama Chu said, you can secretly go outside, dig a pit and bury all the gold, silver, and jewels. Only you will know the location. When you marry, you can dig them up again. No one will be able to take them. My eyes lit up. Thank you, Mama. Mama Chu hurriedly returned to the eldest Madam to report. I smiled coldly. Those 50 taels of silver were nearly my entire fortune. My mother had no gold or jewels at all, but because I acted so generously, Mama Chu would definitely think I was rich. She was greedy by nature and very likely to take the bait. I already had another plan, but I never expected Mama Chu to give me an even better path. The next one is you, Mama Chu. I wandered around the mansion for 2 whole days, pretending to look for a place to bury the treasure. I discovered a maid secretly following my movements. The fish had taken the bait. Mama Chu must have thought I really listened to her and wanted to bury the valuables. With such an opportunity, whether true or false, she would lose nothing by trying. So she would definitely make a move. I would simply follow the plan. One night, I hugged a box and secretly left the courtyard. When I passed the servants' quarters, I deliberately paused for a moment so the watching maid could see me and follow. Soon after, I sensed someone trailing behind. Under the moonlight, I saw Mama Chu's plump figure sneaking after me. The maid had reported to her, so she had come herself. Perfect. I walked to the artificial hill beside the lake. This was the secluded killing spot I had carefully chosen. Desolate, quiet, and without a soul in sight, I dug a few holes with my bare hands, pretending to bury the box, then left. Not long after, Mama Chu indeed rushed over and started digging. I picked up the large club I had hidden nearby, aimed at her head, and smashed down with all my strength. Mama Chu collapsed instantly. I pushed her into the lake and waited until she no longer surfaced before quietly returning to my room. The next morning, the Duke Fu's mansion remained completely silent. The eldest madam never noticed Mama Chu's disappearance. Mama Chu had told me to bury the treasure herself. Being greedy, she definitely wouldn't have told anyone else and would come alone in secret. It was the perfect chance for me to act. Still, I didn't dare guarantee the plan had no flaws. I stayed in my room for 2 full days, heart pounding like a frightened rabbit, prepared to die if necessary. Unexpectedly, Mama Chu's matter never came to light. Success. If heaven was helping me, then I would continue living. I called the maid who had been monitoring me. "Qiu, if I give you silver, would you leave the mansion?" The maid shook her head. "No need, young miss. This servant is very comfortable here," I said coldly. "You are Mama Chu's person. You've been following me these past few days, haven't you?" The maid hurriedly denied it. "No, second young miss, you cannot wrongly accuse a servant like this." I exposed her. "I already heard you talking. Since the matter is exposed," she stopped pretending. "Second young miss, so what? You betrayed me." I smiled faintly. "Very good." I picked up the scissors on the table and stabbed them viciously into my own palm. Blood gushed out instantly. This was something I would never have dared to imagine before. It hurt. It really hurt. But compared to the hatred in my heart, this pain was nothing. "Save me. Save me." I screamed at the top of my lungs, rushing out of the courtyard and straight toward the old madam's residence. Everyone was alarmed. The old madam stepped out and asked, "What is all this commotion about?" I dropped to my knees with a thud and raised my blood-soaked hand. "Qiu tried to kill me." The maid chased after me and knelt in terror. "This servant didn't. It was second young miss who stabbed herself. It wasn't me." I looked at the old madam. "Grandmother, think about it. I am a young miss of the Duke's mansion. Why would I stab myself just to frame a maid?" I turned to Qiu again. "Why would I frame you? What do you have that is worth me framing you? Clearly, you wanted to harm me." Qiu opened her mouth but couldn't speak. She didn't dare reveal that she had been ordered by Mama Chu to monitor me. That was a grave crime. Harming one's master was also a capital offense. She was trapped with no way out. Death either way. But this servant also has no reason to harm second young miss. You do. In the past my mother and I punished you. You held a grudge, became lazy, and shirked your duties. Today I wanted to expel you from the mansion. You couldn't accept it and stabbed me in rage. Before, Qiu had already been dissatisfied with my mother and me, just like the other servants who refused to obey. She never showed us any respect. That was exactly why my mother and I had treated Chunying like a sister. She had pretended to protect us. Unfortunately, we had raised an ungrateful viper. Is this true? The old madam asked the other maids who had followed. No one dared lie. They answered tremblingly that it was indeed true. "Drag her away." The old madam waved her hand. A lowly maid, she couldn't be bothered to investigate further. Besides, others had already confirmed Qiu's resentment toward me, and my hand was covered in blood. The evidence was conclusive. Qiu screamed hysterically, "This servant is innocent. This servant has been wrong. It was Mama Chu who ordered me to monitor her. Young miss, it was you who discovered it and framed this servant." Zhang Mama barked, "Daring to spy on your master at a servant's command. That alone deserves death. Drag her away. Young miss, this servant was wrong. Young miss, save me." Qiu wailed pitifully as she was hauled off, begging for her life the entire way. I didn't waver in the slightest. I had already given her a chance. She simply didn't know how to cherish it. Chuoyu was beaten to death with random blows from the cane. I finally let out a long breath. The only remaining witness was gone. Now no one can threaten me with Mama Chu's matter anymore. Where is Mama Chu? The old madam sounded somewhat irritated and sent people to summon her, only to learn that Mama Chu had disappeared. Could she have fled out of guilt? Everyone began speculating wildly, but why would she run? It was only monitoring the second young miss, nothing serious. 3 days later, Mama Chu's corpse was discovered at the bottom of the lake. It had been caught in the water weeds, so it took several days before anyone noticed. When they fished it out, the body was already swollen and bloated. Mama Chu had been the eldest madam's dowry maid, serving her for decades as her most trusted confidante. The eldest madam flew into a thunderous rage and ordered a thorough investigation. I worried they would discover the wound on the back of Mama Chu's head and realize she had been murdered, so I remained on edge the whole time. But because there were rocks in the lake and the corpse had swollen, they couldn't determine whether she had been knocked unconscious and thrown in, or had accidentally fallen and struck her head on stone. Several days of rain had washed away any footprints as well. Heaven itself was helping me. Of course, even if they had seen the footprints, it wouldn't have mattered. I had worn an oversized pair of shoes stuffed with wooden boards and leaves, leaving prints far too large for anyone to connect to me. Because of Mama Chu's death, the eldest madam turned the entire inner courtyard upside down. I was summoned to father for questioning as well, but with dead men telling no tales, I stubbornly insisted I had been inside my room chanting sutras and praying for my mother's soul. There was nothing she could do to me. Besides, Mama Chu had clearly snuck out on her own, and the place where she died was 1,000 miles away from my courtyard. In the end, after causing chaos for half a day with no results, the eldest madam was even scolded by father. The matter was dropped. I exhaled in fierce relief. After Chunying and Chuyu died, the servants in my courtyard became far more obedient. I seized the chance to slip out, disguised myself, and told the storyteller everything that had happened inside the Duke Fu's mansion. I instructed him to spread the tale far and wide. How the principal wife of the Duke Fu's mansion had beaten the concubine to death, planted a spy maid beside her, ordered Mama Chu to monitor the concubine's daughter, and then killed to silence witnesses once the plot was exposed. Once the storyteller began recounting it, even if the eldest madam jumped into the Yellow River, she would never wash herself clean. After all, concubine Lu really had died. Before her death, Chunying had screamed over and over that she belonged to the eldest madam. Chuyu had admitted she was sent by Mama Chu to spy on me, and Mama Chu was the eldest madam's trusted confidante. Now Mama Chu herself had died under mysterious circumstances. Naturally, the eldest madam became the prime suspect in Mama Chu's death. In an instant, she turned into the laughingstock of the capital. People said she was jealous and vicious, without a shred of virtue. Father was mocked by his colleagues for not even being able to control his own wife, becoming the butt of every joke. As the ancient saying goes, cultivate the self, regulate the family, govern the state. If father couldn't even manage his own household, his ability was called into question. His superiors grew dissatisfied. The promotion that had already been decided was put on hold. Father, who valued face above all, lost every ounce of dignity. His position remained unchanged, and he was furious. The moment he returned home, he erupted at the eldest madam, roaring that killing was one thing. Why had she let the whole capital find out? The eldest madam was stubborn and refused to admit she had killed Mama Chu. The two of them had a massive fight. In his rage, father slapped her across the face. The eldest madam smashed countless precious objects before her anger finally subsided. In the end, the old madam had to step in to mediate before they reluctantly let the matter drop. Unfortunately, a broken mirror is hard to mend. Their relationship already had cracks, now those fissures ran even deeper. Several people had died in the inner courtyard of our mansion in such a short time. The old madam felt it was inauspicious and decided to lead all the female family members to Jiaju Temple to burn incense and pray for blessings. What was destined to come had finally arrived. This scene existed in the original novel. At Jiaju Temple, the vicious female supporting character, would save the Empress Dowager and request to become the Crown Prince's side consort. The Crown Prince would then have both Lin Yila and me marry into the Eastern Palace. My legitimate sister would refuse and boldly beg the Emperor to annul the engagement. After she left, the Crown Prince would begin missing her good qualities, finally realizing how important she was to him. The wife, chasing crematorium plotline would officially begin. He would treat me with utter coldness while I, the vicious supporting female, would go completely insane. Ha, fine. Since I was destined to go mad and die anyway, I might as well go all the way. On the appointed day, the female members of the Duke Fu's mansion boarded their carriages in a grand procession and headed towards Zhaoju Temple. Lin Yila, the female lead of the wife, chasing crematorium novel, rode in the same carriage as me. Lin Yua, the vicious female supporting character. Elder sister has looked a little haggard lately. While I had been busy killing people, she had been busy chasing after the crown prince. The novel described how deeply she loved the crown prince. Everyone knew it, while the crown prince remained cold and indifferent. The book painted her as gentle, kind, noble, pure, and breathtakingly beautiful. Among all the women in the inner courtyard, who killed without blinking, Lin Yila's hands had never once been stained with blood. She had never actively harmed me. She was like a pure lotus rising unsullied from the mud. Yet when her mother tormented my mother and me, she pretended not to see. Once, when I was pushed into the lake and saw her walking along the bank, I screamed for help. She simply turned and left. Not long ago, when the eldest madam punished me by sending me into the thorny rose bushes to pick flowers, my hands and feet were pierced until they bled. She walked right past me and acted as if she hadn't noticed. The next day, when the crown prince visited the Duke Fu's mansion to see me, and noticed the wounds on my hands, he asked what happened. My sister feigned surprise. "Oh, little sister, how did you get hurt so badly?" At the time I had been confused. She had clearly seen me picking the roses. Why pretend? Hadn't she seen it? "I thought you were just picking flowers for fun. I didn't realize you were injured so severely." She always appeared right after I was punished, comforted me with a few gentle words to maintain her image of kindness, then did nothing more. Back then I couldn't tell whether it was deliberate or mere coincidence. But the last time my mother and I were forced to hold the medicinal stoves, when I risked everything to offend the eldest madam by using the crown prince's name to threaten her and save my mother, the reluctant look on my sister's face finally made everything clear. She had wanted to watch us suffer. A pure, kind female lead, how ridiculous. Suddenly my sister asked, "Little sister, what's inside that box of yours?" "Nothing," I answered. Inside the box were my mother's ashes. After she died, I had been locked inside the courtyard. The moment I was released, I went to the mass grave, collected her charred bones, cremated what remained, and placed the ashes in this box to bring back to the mansion. As a criminal, my mother could not be buried in Duke Fu's ancestral tomb. I refused to let her become a wandering ghost in the wilderness, so I secretly kept the ashes, planning to bury them behind Zhaoju Temple. With monks chanting sutras for her every day, she would surely reach the Pure Land. The more I tried to avoid the topic, the more curious my sister became about my wooden box. She insisted I open it. It was unbearably annoying. When we arrived at Zhaoju Temple, the crown prince was already there. He was tall and strikingly handsome, noble and composed, the kind of man who could make any woman lose her mind. My sister spoke to him with gentle affection. "Your Highness the Crown Prince." At this point in the story, the crown prince still loved her without realizing it. He deliberately ignored and tormented her, speaking only with the old madam. My sister looked downcast. To ease the awkwardness, she turned to me. "Little sister, I'm truly curious about that box of yours." She was trying to shift attention. I deliberately stepped forward, scratched my head awkwardly, and curtsied. The crown prince smiled. "Rise." "Thank you, Your Highness." I spoke shyly, glancing at my sister from the corner of my eye. She bit her lip hard. Jealous, bitter, yet forced to pretend she didn't care. I then intentionally moved closer to the crown prince. Afraid he would be stolen away, my sister immediately stuck close to his side and no longer paid any attention to my wooden box. I breathed in relief. That evening, the eldest madam summoned me to the side hall. I obediently knelt. She laughed coldly. "Who do you think you are? You dare dream of seducing the crown prince? Madam, you misunderstand. I don't." The eldest madam stepped forward and slapped me viciously. "Don't think I can't see what you're planning. Remember this clearly, the crown prince belongs to your sister. A lowly concubine's daughter like you should look in the mirror before dreaming of a man so far beyond your reach." I clutched my face and answered, "Your daughter knows her place. Elder sister is the bright moon in the sky while I am nothing but mud on the ground. How could I possibly compare? Besides, even if I wanted to seduce him, A distinguished man like His Highness the Crown Prince would never spare me a single glance. The eldest madam finally looked satisfied. Good that you understand. Even if you stripped naked and stood in front of the Crown Prince, he wouldn't even glance at you. Right at that moment, the maid beside my sister walked in. Madam, please look at this. In her hands she carried the wooden box containing my mother's ashes. I had left the box inside my own room. How had it ended up with my sister's maid? I shot to my feet. Give it back to me. The maid dodged and slipped behind the eldest madam. Madam, the second young miss has been hiding ashes inside her room. The eldest madam frowned. The maid snorted coldly and opened the box. Madam, we came to the temple to pray for blessings, yet the second young miss dared to bring criminal ashes with her. If the eldest young miss hadn't discovered it, the consequences would have been unthinkable. I shouted, what consequences? These are my mother's ashes. I only wanted to bring them to the temple to be buried properly. What could possibly happen? I never intended to make this public, nor did I want any trouble. Even if discovered, these ashes were never placed in the Duke Fu's ancestral tomb, or even inside the mansion grounds. I simply asked to bury them behind the temple mountain. It's hardly a big deal. The eldest madam laughed coldly. Of course it's a big deal. You carried the ashes of a criminal with you. This is an insult to the Buddha. The Buddha will think our family is disrespectful to the gods and spirits. If divine punishment falls upon the Duke Fu's mansion, can you bear the responsibility? I said, my mother was not a criminal. She would never offend the Buddha. You wretched girl who doesn't know her place. The eldest madam slapped me again and said indifferently, Concubine Lu plotted against her mistress. Her crime is unforgivable. The ashes of a criminal must be scattered along the incense path so that 10,000 people may trample them. Only then can her sins be washed away. Yes. The maid glared at me, picked up the box, and left. Give it back. I struggled desperately against the servants holding me and chased after the maid. She seemed to have been waiting for me. Right in front of my eyes, she opened the box and scattered my mother's ashes onto the muddy path. No. I screamed and lunged forward. The maid threw the box to the ground, spat, and cursed. How unlucky. Ignoring the mud, I scooped up the box and frantically gathered every handful of ashes mixed with dirt, shoving them back inside. Behind me came my sister's voice. Little sister, what are you doing? She wore an expression of perfect shock, as if she truly had no idea what had happened. The Crown Prince stood beside her. When he saw me covered head to toe in mud, a flash of disgust crossed his eyes. I ignored them both. I simply kept gathering the ashes mixed with mud, crying as I worked. No matter how hard I tried, some of the ashes could never be recovered. The Crown Prince turned and left. My sister hurriedly chased after him. It's getting dark. I fear a long night brings many dreams. Still sobbing, I made my way to the cemetery behind the mountain and dug a small grave to bury my mother. The graves were piled high. Gusts of cold wind blew through. Not a single soul was around. The weather was freezing, withered leaves swirled and fell, quickly covering the ground. Strange sounds echoed occasionally, as though wandering ghosts from the underworld were drifting nearby. When I was little, I had been terrified of ghosts and the dark. I could only sleep if my mother held me. Now my mother was gone. She could no longer protect me. But I was no longer afraid of darkness or ghosts. There were things in this world far more terrifying than ghosts. Hell is empty. All the devils are here on earth. I stood up, looked at the small grave, and whispered. If the devils are in the human world, then the human world is hell itself. If I don't enter hell, who will? Since I've already entered hell, then I shall become a vengeful ghost. At that exact moment, I heard a woman's desperate cry. Help! Save me! In an instant, I remembered the scene from the novel. The vicious female supporting character saves the Empress Dowager. Without thinking, I followed the sound and rushed over. In the hazy night, at the edge of a sheer cliff, I saw a woman clinging desperately to a vine, her feet slipping on the jagged rocks, about to fall. Save me. The Empress Dowager was still crying for help. Who's there? I called. Save me. Joy filled her voice. I'm here, at the edge of the cliff. Hold on. I'll pull you up. I answered. Yes, yes, yes. I used all my strength and dragged the Empress Dowager up from the cliff. Both of us collapsed at the edge, panting heavily. She was dressed in ordinary clothes, clearly not wanting anyone to recognize her status. The book had written that before entering the palace, the Empress Dowager once had a childhood sweetheart. They loved each other deeply, but she was selected to enter the palace and the two were separated forever. Her lover never forgot her and refused to marry. The Empress Dowager wrote him countless letters urging him to move on. Only when he turned 30 did he finally take a wife and have a son. Not long after, his family committed a crime and was imprisoned. To avoid suspicion, the Empress Dowager did not help. Her lover and his wife soon died in prison. Their family declined, leaving only one young son. Overcome with regret, the Empress Dowager secretly had the boy rescued and placed at the gates of Jeju Temple. She also quietly buried her lover and his wife's remains in the cemetery behind the mountain. The boy was adopted by the abbot and became an ordinary little monk. From then on, the Empress Dowager often used the excuse of praying for blessings to visit Jeju Temple and quietly pay her respects. This time she had accidentally slipped off the cliff, most likely while secretly coming to mourn her lost love. Thinking to this point, a vague plan slowly formed in my mind. Good child, thank you for saving me. Otherwise I would have died here. The Empress Dowager said gratefully. The Buddha let me save you. It proves there is fate between us. I replied softly. If you wish to thank anyone, thank the Buddha. In the novel, the Empress Dowager was devout. I didn't just want to be her lifesaver. I wanted to create an even deeper connection. She paused for a moment, then took my hand and examined it carefully. Indeed, there is fate. We walked back to the temple together. Along the way I behaved with perfect courtesy. Admiration appeared in the Empress Dowager's eyes. She asked about my background. I answered honestly, then politely asked about hers. She casually replied, I am a distant relative of the Han family. The Empress Dowager's maternal family is the Great Han clan. After she entered the palace, to show that the maternal relatives would not interfere in court affairs, she rarely visits her natal family. Calling myself a distant relative is not an exaggeration. I pretended not to know. I'm sorry. I have always stayed within the inner courtyard and don't know the important figures in the capital. The Empress Dowager smiled. It is normal for young ladies to be unaware of such matters. Older people loved asking about younger generations' marriages. After I deliberately guided the conversation, the Empress Dowager indeed asked, Yua, are you engaged yet? My face reddened. I shook my head. Not yet. The Empress Dowager smiled faintly. Do you have someone in your heart? I didn't answer. She laughed. So you do. If you can tell me, I can act as matchmaker for you both. I sighed. The man I admire possesses extraordinary talent to govern the country and bring peace to the world. He is peerlessly handsome, the finest man in the world. I am not worthy of him. I had planted the seed, the Empress Dowager pressed. Who is he? I kept my mouth shut. She grew even more curious. When we reached the main gate of Jeju Temple, I bid the Empress Dowager farewell and returned to my own room. My sister was waiting outside my door. The moment she saw me, her face filled with remorse. Little sister, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have entered your room and opened that box. I was only curious and took a quick look. I never told anyone. I never expected Maxin to report it to mother. If I had known, I would have stopped her. Please believe me. She kept apologizing nonstop. The moment I saw her, I remembered my mother's ashes being scattered across the path. Hypocrite. I spoke coldly. Get out. My sister's eyes instantly reddened. Little sister, why do you always think the worst of me? I took a deep breath. Sister, please leave. I want to wash my face. Little sister. I slammed the door shut and slid down to the floor, exhausted. Lin Yila, what right do you have to apologize for my mother's ashes being scattered? You are the murderer, yet you still pretend to be kind. Don't you like the crown prince the most? Then I will steal him from you. Doesn't the eldest Madam hope Lin Yila will be doted on by the crown prince so she can enjoy glory and wealth? Doesn't father desperately want the crown prince to promote the Duke Fu's mansion? I will steal the crown prince and destroy the entire Duke Fu's mansion. I want all of you to die without a place to be buried. Little sister, it's all my fault. Please forgive me. Lin Yila was still calling outside, as if she would never stop until I forgave her. But on what basis did I have to forgive her? The crown prince suddenly appeared nearby, frowning. It's so late. What are you two making so much noise about? He had come at the perfect time. At this stage, the crown prince still loved my sister without realizing it. He deeply disliked her and often humiliated her. I didn't mind taking advantage of that. I opened the door, curtsied, and said, Elder sister has made a mistake and wants this servant to forgive her. The crown prince raised an eyebrow. What mistake did she make? My sister opened her mouth but couldn't speak. So she also knows that saying this out loud would make people disgusted. Then why did she barge into my room, open my box without permission, and let Maxon run to the eldest madam to accuse me? Don't think you can pretend you know nothing and push all responsibility onto others. The situation grew tense. Tears shimmered in my sister's eyes, making her look pitiful and fragile. Maxon had run over by now. Seeing the scene, she hurriedly said, "Your Highness, why are you bullying the eldest young miss again?" She shot me a disgusted look. "Your Highness, don't listen to this girl sowing discord. She has no good intentions, just like her mother, who loved seducing men." In this wife-chasing crematorium novel, the female lead was a so-called White Lotus. She never spoke up for herself. After all, boasting about her own good deeds would be too vulgar and beneath her noble, pure image. The heavens favored her, so people around her would always speak on her behalf, telling the crown prince everything she had done for him. This way she kept her flawless image while the crown prince remembered her kindness. But right now the wife-chasing arc hasn't started yet. The male lead was still blind and heartless, constantly mistreating the female lead without reason. This was a heaven-sent opportunity for me. Vicious female supporting character. If I don't seize it, wouldn't I be letting down my own role? I said. Maxon, His Highness only asked elder sister a few questions. How did it become bullying? Maxon froze. I turned to the crown prince. Your Highness, does this maid usually act so rudely toward others? The crown prince frowned. Maxon's face paled. She quickly knelt and apologized, saying she had only spoken out because she saw the eldest young miss being bullied. I said. Elder sister was standing outside my door begging for my forgiveness. I didn't want to accept her apology, so I disturbed your Highness. Maxon refused to back down. Why should the eldest young miss apologize to you? I smiled faintly. She barged into my room without permission and opened my box. Shouldn't she apologize? The crown prince's brows knitted even tighter. He turned to look at my sister. Maxon hurriedly explained. Your Highness, the second young miss was acting suspiciously. The eldest young miss was worried about her and came to invite her to burn incense. The door was unlocked, so she simply walked in. I said, the door was unlocked, so you can just enter my room and rummage through my things whenever you like. My sister's face turned deathly pale. She bit her lip, looking like she had been greatly wronged. Female leads were always like this. The vicious female supporting character acted aggressively while the female lead stayed silent and pitiful. Maxon raged. Second young miss. Don't go too far. You were the one who secretly brought criminal ashes into the temple. You were wrong first. My eyes reddened. Those were my mother's ashes. Maxon argued righteously. The ashes of a criminal. You clearly had ulterior motives for bringing them here. I knelt before the crown prince. Your Highness, my birth mother was beaten to death by the eldest madam. Her body was thrown into the mass grave. I didn't want her to become a lonely ghost, so I secretly collected her ashes and brought them to the temple. But elder sister barged into my room, opened the box, and discovered the ashes. Maxon then took the box straight to the eldest madam. The eldest madam flew into a rage and ordered Maxon to scatter my mother's ashes along the path so that 10,000 people would trample them. Your Highness, today when I was picking up the ashes from the road, you saw it with your own eyes. Tears streamed down my face. Maxon opened her mouth but couldn't speak. The crown prince said coldly, Second young miss, collecting your mother's ashes and bringing them to the temple without tarnishing the Duke Fu's reputation. Why should they be scattered? Even if there was enmity, she is already dead. To refuse to let even her ashes rest in peace is truly vicious. Sure enough, like master, like servant, I hurriedly kowtowed. Maxon scattered my mother's ashes and still dares to speak so arrogantly. I beg your Highness to punish her severely. No. My sister rushed forward and knelt as well. It's all my fault. Punish me instead. Don't punish Maxon. It's fine if the eldest young miss is unharmed. This servant doesn't mind being punished. Please don't plead for me. My sister and Maxon put on a perfect show of deep master-servant affection. I gritted my teeth. This evil servant deserves death. Only death can atone for her crime. The crown prince nodded. Then tell me, what should be done? A vicious glint flashed in my eyes. Drag her out and feed her to the dogs. Maxon's face drained of all color. In the original novel, to highlight my viciousness, there was a scene where I caused Maxon's death. Today she would die at my hands. Truly heaven's will. My sister wept bitterly. Your Highness, this is Jeju Temple. We cannot take a life here. At this stage the wife-chasing crematorium arc had not yet begun, so the male lead would suppress the female lead for no reason at all. The more she begged, the more he would arrogantly decide to torment her. He spoke lazily. "You're right, then we won't kill her." Maxine had shown disrespect to the imperial family. Pull out her tongue. Since she scattered the ashes, chop off both her hands. Will that do? I quickly said. Thank you, Your Highness, for deciding. Maxine instantly collapsed to the ground in terror. My sister's face turned deathly pale as she pleaded nonstop, but the crown prince remained unmoved. Tears brimmed in her eyes, her entire body looked as though it might shatter at any moment. Long Mingy, must you really do this? The crown prince already loathed my sister. The more she begged, the stronger his desire to torment her grew. He ordered coldly, drag her away. Maxine was hauled off to have her tongue pulled out and both hands severed. My sister fainted on the spot and was carried away. In the original novel, when the male lead saw the female lead injured, he would feel uncomfortable inside but do nothing. Only after my sister left would his feelings finally erupt, but that was a matter for later. Right now I was still safe. The crown prince turned to me with icy disdain. Don't think I don't know you're using me to kill others, relying on your father's favor to act recklessly. In the novel, to create torment for my sister, there was always a father who favored the supporting female. But did my father truly favor me? Ha! I asked the crown prince, Your Highness, do you really believe the Duke Fu's mansion favors me? If I were truly doted upon, do you think I would be living in a place like this? I can't even keep my door locked at night. A man like you can stroll into my room whenever you please. Would you allow your own daughter to live in such a situation? The crown prince froze for a moment, then flicked his sleeve and left. I bowed deeply, respectfully sending off Your Highness. Early the next morning, I was dragged out of bed and hauled straight to the eldest madam's room. You slut. The eldest madam was clearly furious beyond reason. She actually slapped me herself. Slap me harder. This is exactly what I wanted. Maxine was nothing more than a dog. The real mastermind was the eldest madam. You dared make my daughter faint. Who gave you the nerve? She gripped my chin tightly, her nails nearly piercing the flesh. It hurt terribly, but I was delighted. The angrier she became, the better it was for me. Madam, it was His Highness the Crown Prince who made elder sister faint, not me. If you hadn't run to complain to him, how would Maxine have been punished? How would Yila have fainted? The eldest madam hurled me to the ground and laughed coldly. I already warned you not to seduce the Crown Prince. Since you refused to listen, don't blame me for being ruthless. Su Mama, bring a basin of charcoal. I cried out in horror. Madam. The eldest madam lazily examined her nails. Su Mama snorted coldly. The weather is freezing. The second young miss was warming herself by the fire and accidentally let the charcoal burn her face and ruin her appearance. My fingers clenched. I knew the eldest madam was vicious, but I never imagined she would be this cruel. In this world, once a woman's face was destroyed, her entire life was finished. The maids quickly brought the glowing red charcoal. The eldest madam picked up a piece with tongues and walked toward me with a smile. Two sturdy servants held me down so tightly I couldn't struggle. No. Don't. The burning coal drew closer and closer. At that exact moment, the door was kicked open with a bang. The Empress Dowager stood at the entrance with her people, her face stern. Stop. The eldest madam panicked and dropped to her knees. This subject greets the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager gave her one cold glance, then personally helped me up. Good child, you've been frightened. Come, stand up. I trembled. You are Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. She spoke kindly, shot the eldest madam a disgusted look, and led me away. Before leaving, I gave the eldest madam a triumphant smile. She finally realized I had been scheming against her the whole time, her nose twisted with rage. Once we were outside, I acted utterly terrified and didn't dare say a single word. The Empress Dowager was experienced and worried the eldest madam would continue tormenting me, so she arranged for me to stay elsewhere. I looked as meek and grateful as a frightened bird. The moment she left, I dropped every trace of fear, sat quietly on the edge of the bed, and calmly planned my next move. Last night, after my sister fainted, I knew the eldest madam would definitely come for me. How could I sit and wait for death? The moment the Crown Prince left, I had gone straight to the Empress Dowager's courtyard to beg for help. The Empress Dowager had let me in to speak. I trembled with fear, tears streaming down my face as I poured out everything. including the matter of my mother's ashes, how the crown prince had punished Maxon on my behalf, and every detail of the eldest madam's abuse. Earlier, when Mama Chu died, I had already paid the storyteller to spread the eldest madam's crimes everywhere. That served as the perfect foundation. The Empress Dowager had already heard the rumors, so she mostly believed and felt deep pity. I told her, "Madam Han, please save me. Tomorrow the madam will definitely punish me again." The Empress Dowager said, "Very well. I will come find you first thing in the morning." I replied, "I will wait for you. If I am not in my room, it means the madam has already taken me away." That was how the dramatic rescue scene at the last possible second had been arranged. The Empress Dowager had personally witnessed the eldest madam about to burn my face with charcoal. The hatred in her heart had surely reached its peak, if she said a few words in front of the Emperor Ha. The Empress Dowager's arrival shook the entire Duke Fu's mansion. The old madam and everyone else rushed over to pay their respects. I sat obediently beside the Empress Dowager as she publicly announced my identity as her lifesaver and rebuked the eldest madam for abusing me in front of the whole family. The old madam and the eldest madam were both shocked and furious. The eldest madam hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy, desperately trying to explain herself. The Empress Dowager had no interest in listening. "Silence. I saw with my own eyes that you were about to burn Yua's face with charcoal, yet you still dare deny it. Out of respect for the old duke, I will spare you today." The old madam quickly said, "Why aren't you thanking Her Majesty for her mercy?" The Empress Dowager looked at her. The old madam panicked and said, "Your Majesty, my daughter-in-law has erred. As her mother-in-law, I failed to discipline her properly. Someone, take her to the Buddha Hall to copy scriptures until Her Majesty is satisfied before she is allowed to leave." The Empress Dowager's expression softened. She asked me, "Yua, is this acceptable?" I answered softly, "If the madam can correct her mistakes, that is good." The eldest madam raised her head and glared at me with eyes that looked ready to tear me apart on the spot. "Keep hating. The more you hate, the more you rage. The more you rage, the more mistakes you will make." I didn't ask the Empress Dowager to kill the eldest madam for me. That was impossible, and not my goal. I would take revenge with my own hands. In the end, the eldest madam was punished to stay in the smallest, most desolate little Buddha hall copying scriptures. Merely copying scriptures. How could that be enough? I had no intention of letting her off. Before finishing the vegetarian meal, I strolled leisurely with my maid toward the little Buddha hall, where the eldest madam was being punished. I wanted to watch the show and provoke her once more. Now that we had torn off all pretenses, there was nothing left to hold back. The moment we arrived, I saw a young monk clutching his face and hurrying out. Another monk sweeping nearby asked, "Shan Ming, what happened?" The young monk, about 15 or 16 years old, answered, "The madam of the Duke Fu's mansion was scolded by the Empress Dowager. She couldn't control her anger and hit me." Shan Ming. I felt I had heard that name somewhere before. I took a few more steps, and the memory suddenly surfaced. Shan Ming was the son of the Empress Dowager's childhood sweetheart. Heaven was truly helping me. I immediately called out, "Please wait. May I ask your name?" Shan Ming pressed his palms together. "Amitabha. This poor monk is called Shan Ming." I asked, "Master Shan Ming, you seem to have just come from the little Buddha hall." I wanted to ask whether the madam is sincerely copying scriptures inside. Before Shan Ming could answer, I pretended it was the first time I had seen his face and gasped in shock. "Oh my, Master Shan Ming, what happened to your face? Who hit you?" At this point Shan Ming still didn't know his true identity, nor did he know the Empress Dowager had been secretly watching over him. He thought he was just an ordinary little monk and didn't want to cause trouble. "No one hit me. I fell by accident." I raised my voice on purpose. "Master Shan Ming, don't be afraid. Tell me who hit you." The eldest madam inside the little Buddha hall heard my voice and, sure enough, rushed out in a rage. "Lin Yua, you still dare show your face in front of me." Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. She looked like she wanted to dismember me on the spot. I said, "Madam, you were punished. Your daughter only wanted to come and show some concern." The eldest madam snarled, "Concern? You came to laugh at me. Hemph, Lin Yua, don't think the Empress Dowager will protect you forever. No matter what, I am still your mother. Your marriage is still in my hands." My face paled. I quickly changed the subject. "Master Shan Ming, was it really the madam who hit you?" Shan Ming glanced at the eldest madam, but neither confirmed nor denied it. I immediately spoke for him. Madam, elder sister fainted and you blame me. If you have anger directed at me, why hit a little monk? You are arrogant and look down on everyone. At the moment there were only 2 little monks, me, and one maid present, none of whom she considered worth noticing. She strode over and said arrogantly, so what if I hit him? I am the Duke's wife. He is just a lowly monk. Hitting him is nothing. You dare report me. Will the Empress Dowager really come forward for a little monk? Shan Ming was so frightened he kept backing away. I hurriedly stepped in front of him to shield him. In the mansion you beat servants to death and torment the concubine's daughter, acting as if you own the world. Now you dare behave the same way even in the temple. Madam, the more you oppose me, the more I want to protect Master Shan Ming. She laughed coldly. This monk dared to offend me. Hitting him once is already lenient. Someone, Shan Ming has shown disrespect to the Duke's wife. Drag him down and give him 20 strokes. She casually pinned a crime on him and ordered people to punish Shan Ming. The little monk was terrified out of his wits. Benefactor, how can you falsely accuse this poor monk? I said, Master Shan Ming, don't be afraid. I will go beg the Empress Dowager. The eldest madam snorted, he disrespected me. Even if the Empress Dowager comes, she has no right to interfere. She was certain the Empress Dowager would never appear for a mere little monk. I turned and ran toward the Empress Dowager's residence, shouting loudly as I ran, the Duke's wife wants to beat Master Shan Ming. The Duke's wife wants to beat Master Shan Ming. My voice was crystal clear so no one could misunderstand. I had only run halfway when the Empress Dowager arrived with her people in a hurry. I immediately stepped forward to lead the way. Your Majesty, the madam is not copying scriptures. She wants to beat Master Shan Ming instead. Please come and see. The Empress Dowager was burning with anxiety and said, since Yua has begged, let us go take a look. The large group marched toward the little Buddha hall. When we arrived, 2 burly servants were already holding Shan Ming down, ready to strike. Stop. The Empress Dowager was so furious her lips trembled. Shan Ming was terrified. I rushed over to help him up, then knelt before the Empress Dowager and wept. Your Majesty, this is all Yua's fault. Master Shan Ming suffered because of me. Please grant us justice. I recounted everything in detail. How the eldest madam had slapped Shan Ming and threatened us. All of it poured out. The eldest madam hurriedly knelt and tried to defend herself. Your Majesty, don't listen to her nonsense. There is a reason for this. Shan Ming disrespected your subject. So your subject punished him. She still didn't realize disaster was about to strike and desperately tried to smear Shan Ming further. Of course I protected him with everything I had. The Empress Dowager said coldly, slap her. The eldest madam turned to me with a vicious smile. Yes, slap her mouth. A mama stepped forward and delivered a heavy slap across the eldest madam's face. The old madam, the abbot, the crown prince, my sister, and everyone else had rushed over by now. Seeing the eldest madam being slapped, they were all stunned. My sister screamed, Mother! The old madam asked, Your Majesty, what is happening here? The Empress Dowager said coldly, Madam Lin abused the concubine's daughter. This palace punished her. She refused to copy scriptures, harbored resentment, and took her anger out on a monk. She even falsely accused Master Shan Ming of disrespecting her. Such behavior disrespects this palace and even more so, disrespects the Buddha. Everyone was shocked. They looked at one another in silence, no one daring to speak. The once arrogant eldest madam was now forced to endure dozens of slaps in front of everyone. She had lost all face. She crawled to the Empress Dowager's feet, sobbing and kowtowing. Your Majesty, Shan Ming really did disrespect your subject. Even now she still tried to shift the blame. The old madam and my sister hurriedly knelt as well. Your Majesty, please investigate clearly. My sister pleaded, Your Majesty, my mother would never dare disrespect you or the Buddha. It must be that little monk who disrespected her first. That's why she lost control. Really? The Empress Dowager's gaze turned even colder. She stared hard at the old madam and my sister, then finally fixed her eyes on the eldest madam. You were truly disrespected. At this point the eldest madam could only grit her teeth and insist. Yes, the Empress Dowager said. If you were disrespected, that means you are no longer pure. Your body is tainted. You also tormented the concubine's daughter, beat concubine Lu to death, and possess a vicious heart. Both body and mind are corrupted. You are unworthy of being the Duke's wife. Tomorrow this palace will return to the palace and ask the Emperor to issue a decree divorcing you from the Duke Fu's mansion. The eldest madam instantly collapsed to the ground. The old madam and my sister stood frozen, never having imagined things would develop this way. I stood to the side and sighed inwardly. The Empress Dowager is truly the Empress Dowager. She fought her way out of the 3,000 beauties of the harem to become its master. She has real power. I didn't even need to add fuel to the fire. She had already delivered a crushing blow to the eldest madam. For a moment the entire courtyard was deathly silent. The Empress Dowager asked the eldest madam coldly once more, "Were you disrespected or not?" The eldest madam kowtowed and wept. "No, it was your subject who wrongly accused Master Shan Ming." The Empress Dowager snorted and said to the old madam, "This palace does not wish to see her anymore." The old madam broke out in a cold sweat and repeatedly agreed. The Empress Dowager snorted again, then called me and Shan Ming to leave with her. The male lead never missed a chance to torment the female lead. He looked at my sister with disgust and said, "Is this really your birth mother? The daughter she raised has a betrothal with me." Truly nauseating. My sister's face turned ashen. She collapsed to the ground. I gave them one last glance and followed the Empress Dowager away. Back in the courtyard, I dropped to my knees with a thud. "Your Majesty, thank you for saving my life." After much coaxing, I stood up, still sobbing. "Your Majesty, today I stepped forward for Master Shan Ming's sake. The madam has already threatened to control my marriage. I am truly terrified." The Empress Dowager frowned. "Is that true?" Shan Ming nodded beside me. "Your Majesty, it is exactly as she said." This poor monk heard it clearly. "She is truly lawless and utterly shameless." The Empress Dowager took my hand. "Your marriage. Whoever this palace chooses will marry you." "That's right, didn't you say there is someone in your heart? Tell me who it is. This palace will personally arrange the marriage for you." I knelt again. "Your Majesty, actually I have admired His Highness the Crown Prince for a very long time." "Oh." The Empress Dowager was extremely surprised. I continued, "Actually, the reason for everything that happened this time is also because His Highness stepped forward for me." I hurriedly recounted how the Crown Prince had punished Maxon on my behalf. The Empress Dowager said, "He actually stepped forward for you. It seems he is not completely indifferent to you. It's just that the Crown Prince is too noble, and you." I quickly said, "This subject does not dare to hope for too much. Being a servant girl would already be good enough." The Empress Dowager replied, "You are this palace's lifesaver. How could I allow you to suffer such grievance? This subject does not dare. How could this subject dare to climb so high? Besides, elder sister will become the Crown Princess. She wants to spend a lifetime with His Highness as the only one for each other. If I marry in as well, she will not be happy." The Eastern Palace already had a principal consort, side consorts, crown prince consorts, good consorts, virtuous consorts and countless concubines. Once she became crown princess, she still dared to be unhappy. Did she want the Eastern Palace to contain only herself? Just like her mother, she didn't know the height of the sky or the thickness of the earth. This palace still wants to support you. You will become the side consort. I immediately feigned shock and knelt. "Your Majesty, this subject does not dare." The Empress Dowager said, "It is only a side consort position. You can marry without worry." I hurriedly kowtowed in thanks. The corners of my lips curved into a faint smile. The vicious female supporting character is about to marry the Crown Prince as his side consort. Everyone in the Duke Fu's mansion who had ever wronged me. Just wait. Not long after returning from Jiaju Temple, the palace sent someone to the Duke Fu's mansion to announce 2 decrees. The first decree stripped the eldest madam of her title. Back then she had been granted a noble title with an official document and a plaque inscribed with the 4 characters, virtuous, gentle, chaste, and virtuous. She had hung that plaque in the main hall so everyone who entered could see it. She had always taken pride in it. Now the document was revoked and the plaque was taken down and brought back to the palace. The moment the sacred decree was read, the entire mansion was shaken. The second decree announced that my sister and I would both marry into the Eastern Palace at the same time. My sister would become the Crown Princess according to the betrothal between the old Duke and the Emperor, while I would become the side consort. 2 major events descending at once left everyone dizzy. I adjusted my clothes and kowtowed properly. "This subject thanks His Majesty." The eldest madam collapsed to the floor. My sister ignored all etiquette and shot to her feet, questioning the eunuch in panic. Besides me, Lin Yi was also entering the Eastern Palace as side consort. Does Long Mingi like her? Why must he marry her? Father. My father, kneeling nearby, changed color. The eunuch said coldly, "Eldest young Miss Lin, are you questioning His Majesty's decree?" My sister opened her mouth but couldn't speak. The eldest madam finally recovered and frantically grabbed the eunuch. "Never mind me, but why can that slut Lin Yihua marry into the Eastern Palace? Why?" The eunuch angrily handed over the imperial decree. "Receive the decree and read it yourselves." My sister knelt with tears in her eyes to accept the decree. Both of them took the scroll, and their faces gradually turned deathly white. The eunuch said, "I will report today's behavior of both of you to His Majesty exactly as it happened." With that, he flicked his duster and left. My father hurriedly escorted him out, repeatedly apologizing. The moment my father and the eunuch left, the eldest madam bared her teeth and claws and charged at me. "You slut. You really were eyeing Yila's marriage. Today I will kill you." I smiled and stepped aside. "Madam, please mind your manners." The eldest madam missed and fell flat on her face. She crawled up in a daze. "You slut, you dare dodge." My sister's eyes brimmed with tears as she questioned me. "Yua, I treated you like a real sister. Why did you steal the crown prince?" Ha! Even now she was still entangled with the man. Did she know that because her mother had her titles stripped and offended the Empress Dowager, the outcome would be miserable beyond imagination? I walked over to her. "Elder sister, love has never been about stealing or not stealing. His Highness the Crown Prince never loved you. I will be the side consort and you the principal consort. There is no conflict. Do you really think the Eastern Palace will contain only you in the future?" My sister shook her head desperately, tears pouring down like rain. "I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I must go ask Long Mingyi." She was in such pain that she turned and ran. Sure enough, her head is filled with nothing but romance. I watched her retreating figure and began calculating my next move. Suddenly a hand clamped viciously around my throat. "You slut. I underestimated you. I should have uprooted you completely back then." The eldest madam was crazed. "I am already ruined. I absolutely will not let you ruin Yila. I will drag you down to hell with me." I struggled with all my might. From the corner of my eye I saw my father returning, so I immediately stopped struggling and sobbed pitifully. "Madam, I beg you to spare me. Stop." My father rushed over and kicked the eldest madam squarely in the chest. She fell to the ground, spitting blood, and glared at him. The scene was exactly the same as the day he had kicked me. "Yihua, are you all right?" My father's face was full of tender concern. I coughed softly and shook my head. "I'm fine, father." He released me and looked at the eldest madam with vicious eyes. "Someone. Lock the madam in her courtyard. Without my order, no one is allowed to release her." He was completely furious. Years ago the eldest madam had beaten my mother to death. Although my father no longer loved my mother, it was like someone killing a pet he had raised for decades. He was still angry. Mama Chu's death had made him a laughingstock in the capital and cost him a promotion. Now the eldest madam had angered the Empress Dowager and had her title revoked. It was like a hard slap to his face, causing the entire clan to lose face. The crack between them had already existed. Today he could no longer endure and finally exploded. The eldest madam was locked away. The second and third branches began fighting endlessly over Steward Cheong. The old madam was tied down and suffered constant headaches. The Duke Fu's mansion was in complete chaos, but I knew the real storm was not here. I waited quietly, waiting for my dear sister to finish her part of the story. After returning from the Eastern Palace, my sister looked lost and devastated. The novel described how she had a huge argument with the Crown Prince. He thought she was being unreasonable. She asked if he loved her. He said no. My sister fell into despair. Not long after, news spread that she had rushed into the Imperial Palace and knelt for half a day, begging the emperor to annul her betrothal to the Crown Prince. She also declared that she only wanted a lifetime with one person. Since the Crown Prince did not like her, forcing the marriage would not bring happiness. She would rather withdraw. If the annulment was not granted, she would bash her head against the palace pillar and die. The emperor was extremely displeased, but since the Duke Fu's mansion already had one daughter marrying the Crown Prince, the betrothal could still be considered fulfilled. He agreed. Originally, as the concubine's daughter becoming side consort, I had been the subject of gossip. Now, with my sister causing such a scene, the betrothal between the Crown Prince and the Duke Fu's mansion fell entirely on me. It suddenly became proper and justified. My sister revealed a smile as if a heavy burden had been lifted. In her heart she thought, "Long Mingyi, I don't need you anymore." From today onward, we cut all ties. My love ends here. In the novel, countless words were used to describe her inner turmoil, intensely emotional, filled with a sense of release and liberation that brought readers to tears and made them sigh over her tragically beautiful love. Blame the crown prince for his heartlessness. The world of the novel revolved entirely around the love between those two. Everything my sister did would probably immerse the readers, but her fierce insistence on breaking the engagement brought enormous trouble to the entire Duke Fu's mansion. In the original story, the eldest madam had never been punished at this point. Even if my sister caused a huge scene in the imperial palace, she could have endured it. But now the eldest madam was imprisoned, branded as a vicious woman scorned by all, a thorn in father's side. My sister's annulment would naturally set fire to the eldest madam's already burning fate. When father heard that my sister had broken off the engagement, he was so furious he spat blood on the spot. He summoned her and gave her a vicious scolding. My sister stood stubbornly in the middle of the room. I don't care. If you want to be the crown princess so badly, go do it yourself. Father nearly fainted from rage. Afterward, my sister cursed father for being selfish and self-serving, then ran off crying. I saw the timing was perfect and went to father's study. The eldest madam was different. My sister. She was a venomous she-wolf. She had only fallen into a disadvantage because she had suffered one blow after another and hadn't had time to react yet. Once she regrouped, the one who would suffer would definitely be me. As a qualified vicious female supporting character, I naturally had to strike first, seize the advantage, and uproot the weed completely. Yiwa, you're here. Father greeted me warmly. I chatted with him for a while before asking, Father, the madam has been locked up for several days now. How do you plan to deal with her? Father frowned and thought for a moment. I intend to send her to the manor outside the capital to cultivate in peace. I smiled. Father, you would let her live comfortably in the manor, eating well and dressing finely, enjoying her days in leisure, while you cannot get your promotion. Your reputation is tarnished, and you still have to clean up a mountain of mess. Do you think that's fair? Father exploded in anger. Impossible. She still dreams of living in luxury. I said, Father, if you send her trusted people to accompany her, they will deceive you from above and below. Who knows how happily they will live together? Father understood and asked me, What do you suggest? I replied, Father, the madam cannot bring too many people with her to the manor, and she definitely cannot bring anyone from her own courtyard. Let your daughter choose the servants who will attend her. Is that acceptable? Father's face tightened. It took him a long time before he finally said, Yiwa, she is still your legitimate mother after all. He had understood my meaning. I stopped pretending and laid my cards on the table. Father, you should think carefully. I am now the crown prince's side consort and deeply favored by the Empress Dowager. My birth mother was driven to death, her title revoked, the plaque taken away, offending the Empress Dowager and implicating you. As for elder sister, she forced His Majesty to annul the engagement, displeasing the imperial family and losing her position as crown princess. Father, whose side should you stand on? Father fell silent. I added another spark. This is also the Empress Dowager's intention. The air grew still. Father closed his eyes, suddenly seeming aged several years. He waved his hand. Do as you wish. I bowed. Thank you, Father, for fulfilling my request. He knew what I wanted to do, yet he still agreed. In that case, I would not hold back. I carefully selected La Mama to attend the eldest madam. Li Mama kowtowed. This servant had only one daughter. She was beaten to death by the eldest madam simply for accidentally breaking a vase. This servant has only one relative in this life. My only wish is revenge. Thank you, second young miss, for making it possible. I sighed. Go. I will prepare your household register and documents, along with 100 tals of silver. Once everything is done, leave the capital and live a peaceful life. The next day, the eldest madam was sent to the manor outside the capital in a shabby carriage. My sister went to see her off, crying until her heart nearly broke. When she returned, she stormed into my courtyard to confront me. Linyua, this was all your doing, wasn't it? You harmed mother? I said. Elder sister, you wrong me. Everything was the madam's own doing. I demanded. Ask yourself, how many people has your mother killed? Not only my mother, but also maids and servants. How many has she beaten to death over the years? The bones buried in the flower garden are almost too many to hide anymore. She acted lawlessly in the mansion, but even at Jiaju Temple, With the Empress Dowager and the Crown Prince present, she still refused to restrain herself. She tried to frame Master Shanming and use that as an excuse to beat him to death. Elder sister, you saw it with your own eyes and heard it with your own ears. Why are you blaming me? I never told the madam to do any of that. You have a silver tongue. It was clearly you who sowed discord in front of the Empress Dowager and harmed Mother. Lin Yila stamped her foot in fury. Elder sister, are you saying the Empress Dowager is foolish and incompetent, allowing a lowly concubine's daughter, like me, to twist black and white and frame the proper duke's wife? Don't you find that ridiculous? That day the madam personally admitted to the false accusation, yet you blame me and the Empress Dowager for lacking discernment. I don't blame the Empress Dowager. Lin Yu hurriedly denied it, pointing at me. In short, it must be you scheming. You harmed Mother. I grabbed her finger. Elder sister, why are you still blaming me? If you hadn't insisted on breaking the engagement, Father would never have sent the madam to the manor. If anyone harmed her, it was you who harmed the madam. Lin Yila's face turned deathly pale. I smiled. If elder sister cannot bear to be apart from the madam, you can go to the manor with her to cultivate in peace together. Consider it filial piety and atonement. Why stay in the Duke Fu's mansion? My sister froze, bit her lip, and turned to leave. I had no interest in arguing with Lin Yila any further. She clearly knew how the eldest madam had abused my mother and me, how she had beaten my birth mother to death, and she had personally witnessed the madam admit to the false accusation. Yet she refused to acknowledge any of it. She turned a blind eye to the suffering of others, and she wasn't even willing to truly save her own mother. The novel called her noble, pure, and kind. What kind of kindness was this? In the following period, my sister continued to entangle herself endlessly with the Crown Prince, and never once went to the manor outside the capital to suffer with the eldest madam. In her heart, the Crown Prince was still the most important. Love was everything. After the annulment, the Crown Prince was shaken and felt somewhat reluctant to let her go. He came to the Duke Fu's mansion several times to find my sister, completely ignoring me. The servants all gossiped that I was not favored by the Crown Prince. My sister even deliberately let me see the Crown Prince pursuing her. I had no time for jealousy or rivalry. I had more important things to do. As long as the eldest madam lived, my heart could not rest easy. The Duke Fu's mansion was now in complete chaos. My sister was busy playing chase with the Crown Prince. Father was busy trying to regain imperial favor. The second and third branches were fighting over the steward position, and the old madam had fallen ill from successive blows. No one had time to pay attention to me. I used the excuse of preparing for the wedding to leave the Duke Fu's mansion and head to the manor. Li Mama breathed a sigh of relief. Second young miss, you've finally come. I pulled my hood lower. I'm here. Has she come to trust you recently? Yes. Then let's act. We mustn't let a long night bring many dreams. Very well. I waited silently outside. Before long, Li Mama came out to call me. It's done. I followed her inside. The entire manor contained only the eldest madam and Li Mama. This was my deliberate arrangement. The other tenant farmers around the manor would not disturb us during the day. When I entered the room, the eldest madam had already been drugged by Li Mama and was in a daze. Li Mama stepped forward and tied her up, stuffing a rag in her mouth. I walked over and delivered a vicious slap across the eldest madam's face. She groggily woke up. When she saw it was me, her eyes widened in terror and she made muffled sounds. I said, "Close the door. It's cold. Prepare a basin of charcoal so the madam doesn't catch a chill." Yes. Li Mama went outside. Horror filled the eldest madam's eyes. I looked at her for a moment and comforted her gently. Don't be afraid. I came today only to help you warm up. Li Mama carried in a basin of glowing red charcoal and closed the door. I said, "You seem to really like charcoal fire, madam. Years ago, at the slightest provocation, you made my mother hold a basin of charcoal. At Jaju Temple, you also wanted to use charcoal to destroy my face. This time I will fulfill the madam's wish and let you enjoy it to the fullest. Remember to hold it steady." The eldest madam shook her head frantically. Li Mama threw her to the ground and pressed the bottom of the hot basin into her hands. The eldest madam let out a silent scream and struggled desperately. The sound of sizzling flesh filled the air. She couldn't hold it. The basin tilted. I stepped forward and slapped her hard again. Didn't I tell you to hold it steady? In the struggle, the eldest madam managed to spit out the rag and screamed for help. I picked up a piece of charcoal and shoved it straight into her mouth. Ha! Ah! Ha! I smiled. You couldn't hold the basin steady yourself and still have the nerve to scream and make a fuss. Shouldn't you be punished? She tried desperately to spit out the charcoal and continued screaming for help. I grabbed her hair and slammed her face into the basin of charcoal, silencing her completely. The madam truly doesn't understand the rules. You should learn some more. The sound of sizzling flesh mixed with the smell of burning spread on the wind. Years ago the madam had taught my mother and me the rules exactly like this. How did I learn? Was the student now surpassing the master? I chuckled softly and threw her to the ground. The eldest madam convulsed on the floor. I said, "Mama, I'm done. Your turn." "Thank you, second young miss, for making this possible." Mama gave a terrifying smile, grabbed the eldest madam, and pressed her face into the basin once more. The eldest madam struggled violently for a moment, then went still. Mama stood up. "She's dead. She's dead." I drew the small knife I carried and stabbed it hard into the eldest madam's stomach. She convulsed again. "Oh dear, mother is pretending to be dead again." I laughed. "Unfortunately, I'm timid. I have to check carefully to feel at ease." Her mouth was already ruined and she couldn't speak. She could only shake her head desperately. I stabbed her in the chest once more. This time she stopped breathing completely. Once everything was finished, I looked at the sky and stood up. "Mama, I have to go back. Follow the plan." Before long, fierce flames erupted from the manor. I waited a moment and noticed Mama hadn't come out. I hurried back. Mama. Through the raging fire, Mama smiled at me. "Second young miss, an old woman like me has lived a very bitter life. Now that I've had my revenge, I want to reunite with my daughter soon. Second young miss, hurry and leave. The others will be here soon." My eyes burned. I rushed into the fire to pull her. "Mama, I want to take you with me. In the future I will be filial to you. Is that all right?" Tears fell from her eyes. She shook her head at me and pushed me out with all her strength. "Second young miss, go quickly. I wish you a smooth rise to the top, riding the wind to success." I collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. The fire grew fiercer. Mama's figure gradually blurred. Voices came from afar. I hurriedly stood and left, running and crying. When I returned to the Duke Fu's mansion, I shut myself in my room and didn't come out, quietly sorting through my emotions. Before long, the news that the eldest madam had been burned to death reached the capital. After investigation, it was determined that Mama had set the fire to kill the eldest madam, and had perished in the flames herself. Further investigation revealed that Mama's only daughter had been beaten to death by the eldest madam. She had burned the madam alive for revenge. The authorities ruled accordingly. Upon hearing the news, the old madam sighed deeply. Father remained silent. My sister screamed once and fainted. She cried every single day, her heart aching as if it would break. I secretly sent people to collect Mama's remains and had them brought to Jaju Temple to be buried beside my mother's grave. "Mother, Mama, wait until I marry the crown prince. Then I will move your graves to the mountain peak. From there you can look down at the clouds and listen to the wind. I will be able to burn incense for both of you openly and honorably." At that point, tears fell from my eyes again without warning. I also hoped I could one day burn incense openly and honorably. A familiar voice came from behind. "You caused all the chaos in the Duke Fu's mansion, didn't you?" I spun around and saw the Empress Dowager in plain clothes standing there. "Your Majesty, stand up." The Empress Dowager waved her hand, indicating no need for formalities, and walked with me along the quiet forest path. The Empress Dowager said sadly, "This palace does not blame you." I bit my lip. The Empress Dowager continued, "You and this palace are very much alike. You also saved my life. This palace sees you as half a daughter." "Thank you, Your Majesty. Unfortunately, you are only a side consort." I quickly said, "This subject is already very satisfied being a side consort." The Empress Dowager turned and smiled. "Would you like to become the crown princess?" I immediately shook my head. "I don't want to." That day I talked with the Empress Dowager for a very long time. She wanted to pull me in as her eyes and ears inside the Eastern Palace. I did not hesitate to choose to follow her. The man named Long Minyi was not worth my love. With the Empress Dowager's support, it would be much easier for me to stand firm in the Eastern Palace. 1 month later, I married into the Eastern Palace. My sister, having suffered blow after blow, left the mansion and headed to Jiangnan on the very day of my grand wedding. From then on, the wife-chasing crematorium script officially began. But elder sister, whether the crown prince can actually chase his wife remains to be seen. I sat inside the bridal sedan and smiled. Long Minnie detested me greatly. On our wedding night he came to my room, sat for a while, warned me to behave myself in the future, and left. For the groom not to stay on the wedding night was an extreme humiliation. But I was not angry, because I knew the plot. In this wife-chasing crematorium story, the male lead kept his chastity like jade. He wanted to spend a lifetime with only the female lead and would never touch another woman. As the vicious female supporting character, I naturally had to go mad and eventually find my own death. From now on, I would absolutely not get angry. After the crown prince left my room, I drank alone to drown my sorrows. At this point in the story, he would suffer stomach pain and remember the female lead's stomach-warming soup. But I had already gone to the kitchen and personally cooked the stomach-warming soup. In the month before marrying into the Eastern Palace, I had not been idle. Every day I studied recipes and took in a trusted maid named Suyu, sending her into my sister's small kitchen to learn. At the same time, I went to the restaurant the crown prince liked most and brought a chef into the Eastern Palace. The novel said my sister's soup could warm the stomach. If there was something better to replace it, who would still miss the original? After cooking the stomach-warming soup, I quietly stood outside the crown prince's room and waited. I had to make sure all the servants saw me. When faint groans of pain came from inside the room, I had the kitchen deliver the soup and gave it to the person the crown prince trusted most to bring in. Sure enough, the crown prince's stomach pain disappeared, and he no longer thought of my sister because of the pain. The next day, when the crown prince learned that I had stood outside his room for a long time and personally cooked the soup, his attitude toward me softened a little. I never deliberately appeared before him. I had the kitchen cook all kinds of congee for the crown prince to drink and cooked some myself, to the point that he felt annoyed the moment he saw congee. He had grown to hate congee. How could he still miss the congee my sister used to make? At the same time, I secretly erased every trace of my sister inside the Eastern Palace. In the book, the crown prince would occasionally be moved by things my sister had left behind and begin to miss her. I knew the novel's content, so I secretly threw away things like scented pouches and notebooks. The room was mostly cleaned out. The most troublesome was the plum tree in the garden. It had been planted by my sister herself and was now fully grown. If I suddenly chopped it down, the crown prince would notice and might even resent me. I waited for the right moment. One time when the little prince came to the Eastern Palace, I deliberately took him to the garden to fly a kite. The kite got caught in the plum tree. The little prince said, "Chop the tree down. I want my kite." Thus the plum tree was chopped down in a perfectly reasonable way, and the crown prince had no reaction. Half a year passed. The crown prince never once missed my sister. After she left, he vaguely realized he liked her, but that liking was very faint. Not enough to make him abandon everything and chase her all the way to Jiangnan. I took the initiative and suggested, "If your highness is worried about elder sister, why not send someone to Jiangnan to check on her?" The crown prince seemed slightly moved. "Aren't you angry?" "Haha. Angry? I never liked you in the first place. Why would I be angry? Besides, if you don't personally see my sister happily entwined with that devoted male supporting character, how can you truly give up?" I shook my head. "Elder sister was supposed to be the crown princess. She should return to be your consort. Your highness is the crown prince. It is normal for the imperial family to have many branches. Once you ascend the throne, the harem will have 3,000 beauties. How could this consort possibly be jealous? A proper consort should prepare herself early and put the greater picture first." The crown prince fell into deep thought. Years ago my sister had insisted on a lifetime with only him, causing a huge scene in the palace to break the engagement. He had lost all face and been scolded by His Majesty. That matter had happened long ago and he had nearly forgotten it. I simply reminded him. The crown prince sighed. For the first time, I hugged her in my arms. "These past 6 months must have been hard on you." "Yua? Marrying your highness is not hard at all. I still admired your highness. Because of my lowly status, I never dared express my feelings. Who would have thought that day at Jiaju Temple, when my mother's ashes were about to be scattered, your highness would willingly step forward for me. That kindness, Yua will remember it for the rest of her life." The crown prince frowned. So her repayment was to have the Empress Dowager force me to marry her. The crown prince disliked me precisely because of this. I sighed softly. Your Highness, that day at Jiaju Temple, when you stepped forward for me, I thought your Highness also had feelings for me. At the time the eldest madam wanted to harm me, and I was desperate, so I went to beg the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager believed that as long as I married out, the eldest madam could no longer control me. She asked if I had someone in my heart. I answered that it was your Highness, so she made me the side consort. At the time I refused repeatedly, but the Empress Dowager said your Highness could have many women and one small side consort meant nothing. Only then did I agree. The crown prince's brows relaxed. So that's how it was. Another day I will ask the Empress Dowager to confirm. I knew his suspicious nature, he would definitely go verify with her. I was completely at ease about the Empress Dowager. She would never let me down. Not long after, the crown prince suddenly said to me, Yiwa, it turns out I misunderstood you. The Empress Dowager explained everything clearly. I shook my head. Your Highness, there is no need to apologize. This consort also had selfish motives back then. The crown prince kissed me. From that day on, the crown prince clearly became much warmer toward me. I did not dare relax my guard and continued to serve him with utmost caution. About a month later, the crown prince's mood suddenly turned extremely foul. He often hid in his study drinking alone. I did not rush. I continued cooking soup as usual. It was winter. After he left, I had people lay thick cushions on the soft couch in the study, wrap every chair and stool in cotton, and burn calming incense. I quietly kept him company like this for several days. The crown prince stood in the room and spoke to me as I waited outside the door. It's cold outside. Come in, I answered respectfully. Yes. After I finished placing the hand warmer, the crown prince pulled me close and said, Did you know? She already has another man by her side. It turned out he had seen the devoted male supporting character beside the female lead. According to the original plot, the devoted male supporting character was merely a pitiful tool, used to provoke the male lead and make him realize how many people loved the female lead. But right now, the crown prince had not fully awakened to his love for the female lead, nor had the wife-chasing crematorium arc begun. Therefore, the devoted male supporting character beside my sister would not drive the crown prince into a jealous frenzy to steal her back. He would only think that Lin Yila was living very well and had found her own happiness. He could finally let go with peace of mind. The crown prince drained his cup of wine and sighed deeply, his expression filled with loss. I smiled. Your Highness, if you are truly concerned about elder sister, why not bestow more gold, silver, and jewels upon her and send additional people to take care of her? Would that be all right? The crown prince nodded. You are right. I continued. It would be best to do this quietly so elder sister does not find out. Otherwise she definitely would not accept. The crown prince answered, I understand. After leaving the study, I couldn't help but laugh softly. The main reason for the crown prince's melancholy, aside from my sister having another man, was guilt. Since his feelings were not yet deep, the presence of the devoted male supporting character beside my sister only made him let go of that affection completely. As for the remaining guilt, gold and jewels would more than compensate. Lin Yila, in this life you probably won't get to wait for the crown prince's wife, chasing crematorium arc after all. The crown prince treated me better and better, and another matter only strengthened that. The emperor wanted to arrange yet another crown princess for him. The crown prince was actually very annoyed by imperial marriages, but he had no choice. He came to me to vent. I naturally became a gentle, understanding flower and comforted him. Your Highness, if you can smoothly ascend the throne, won't you be able to decide who becomes your consort? Even if this consort is currently only a side consort, if I make a mistake later I could be demoted to a good consort or even a mere concubine. The crown prince pulled me into his arms. You could also become the crown princess. I smiled. This consort does not dare to dream so high. The crown prince was not overly fond of romance. His ambition burned fiercely. He wanted the throne above all. Because of this, after marrying me he took no other consorts. Occasionally when beauties were presented to him and he could not refuse, he handed them all over to me to handle. I managed the rear courtyard flawlessly. The crown prince was extremely satisfied. Outside everyone said I was the most favored, but in truth I cared nothing for harem affairs. What I thought about was how to topple Duke Fu's mansion. I continued to wait for the right opportunity. 2 years passed, and the opportunity finally arrived. The crown prince needed to handle a major corruption case that involved the Duke Fu's mansion. I volunteered to gather evidence for him. That night I returned to Duke Fu's mansion and reported to Father that the crown prince was investigating the matter. Father assumed I had to rely on him to stand firm in the Eastern Palace and that I was still a daughter of the Duke Fu's mansion, so he told me everything. With sweet words I terrified him. He handed the account books to me for safekeeping. I easily obtained the evidence and delivered it to the crown prince. The crown prince's expression was complicated. He only said one sentence, "You've worked hard," and nothing more. Living together day after day, I came to understand him more deeply. The fewer words he spoke, the greater the matters he handled, and the heavier his feelings ran. I did not regret destroying my maiden family to help my husband. What man would not be moved by such devotion? The crown prince presented the evidence to the emperor. The matter was resolved perfectly. The emperor rewarded the crown prince, imprisoned Father, and sentenced him to execution. The Duke Fu's mansion had its assets confiscated and the entire clan exiled. The old madam was already advanced in years and had been bedridden lately. Upon hearing the news, she fainted and never regained consciousness. The others scattered, some fled, some left. The once magnificent Duke Fu's mansion collapsed almost overnight. Before Father was taken away, I visited him in prison. He clutched the iron bars tightly, his eyes bulging if they would burst. "Lin Yue, you actually betrayed me to curry favor with the crown prince. You are also a daughter of the Duke Fu's mansion. Do you think the mansion's collapse will leave you safe? Let me tell you, a man's love is nothing but an illusion. You cannot rely on it. Dream on if you think the crown prince truly likes you. Even if he does for now, he will tire of you very soon," I said. "Father, I know, because you are exactly that kind of man. Back then you appeared to favor my mother, yet in the end you kicked her aside and let the eldest madam beat her to death, didn't you?" Father fell silent for a moment before asking, "You hate me. How could I not hate you?" I countered. "If you had not forced my mother back then, if you had not made her your concubine, the eldest madam would never have tormented her. You married my mother but failed to protect her. Isn't that your fault?" Father laughed wildly. "Nonsense. Absurd, Lin Yue. Have you gone mad? You would harm your own father for such a reason. I am your birth father. She was nothing but a concubine. You should have planned for your father, not taken revenge for a lowly concubine. Do you know, when I took her as a concubine, she was just a maidservant, a lowly slave. Taking her in was me showing her favor, giving her glory. Without me, how could she have lived in her own courtyard, wearing silk and brocade? Everything you mother and daughter had was granted by me. By me. Lin Yue, yet you harmed your own father for a lowly slave." I watched him quietly as he ranted like a madman. Even now he felt no remorse, still believing my mother was beneath him. My heart ached bitterly for my mother. It turned out Father had always looked down on her from the bottom of his heart. I said, "If Father still cannot reflect on himself, then there is nothing more to say. Go to your death. Yue, save me. I was wrong. Save me, save me." I left with an expressionless face. After leaving the prison, I did not return to the Eastern Palace. Instead, I went to Jeju Temple to pay respects to my mother. Now that I was someone the crown prince valued at his side, and deeply favored by the Empress Dowager, and after my act of great righteousness in exterminating my own family, I had even been praised by the emperor. I naturally had the qualifications to move my mother's grave to the mountain peak. I did not make the relocation grand or public, because I worried that as the vicious female supporting character, my ending might still be miserable. If I fell from grace one day, it would be fine if I died without a proper burial, but I could never forgive myself if it caused my mother's grave to be dug up and her corpse whipped. I would not be able to face her even in the underworld. After moving the grave, I returned to the Eastern Palace feeling much lighter. With my worldly wishes fulfilled, I no longer wanted to exhaust my mind and energy. I had no need to spend every thought trying to please the crown prince. I was only a side consort after all. I had no more obsessions. The next day, Father was beheaded and his head displayed as a warning. I watched from afar, not even wanting to collect his body, then turned and left. Back then, my mother's remains were thrown into the wilderness. Didn't he also refuse to collect them for her? This is simply karma. When I returned to the mansion, the maid Suyu brought a secret letter. "Madam, a letter has arrived from the south." I opened it, read it, and smiled. She had finally decided to return to the capital. My legitimate sister Lin Yila had left on the day of my grand wedding with the crown prince 3 years ago. In the novel, shortly after she went to Jiangnan, the crown prince abandoned everything to chase after her and bring her back to the capital. Lin Yila lived a carefree life in Jiangnan, planting flowers and herbs, with the devoted male supporting character by her side. She calmly told the regret-filled crown prince, "You should leave. The days without you have been wonderful. I will not return." The crown prince lingered for a month before reluctantly returning to the capital. After that, whenever he had time, he would go to Jiangnan to pester my sister, begging and repenting in every way possible. But my sister refused to turn back. About a year later, an assassin who knew the crown prince loved my sister tried to kill her. The crown prince risked everything to take the blade for her, finally winning back her heart. The two of them returned to the capital together. In other words, my sister should have returned to the capital 1 year after going to Jiangnan. But ever since I awakened and blocked every path, the crown prince never chased after her. My sister stayed in Jiangnan and never returned. 3 full years had passed. Why had she suddenly decided to come back on her own? Su Yu said, "Madam, could it be that Lin Yila is returning because the Duke Fu's mansion was confiscated?" I burned the secret letter. No. If she truly wanted to save the mansion, she should have returned in the 9th month. Major cases take a long time to investigate. The Duke Fu's case dragged on for nearly 2 months. If Lin Yila wanted to save anyone, she should have come back early to maneuver. But she didn't. Su Yu said, "Then is she coming back to fight for His Highness?" "Madam, you must be careful." I replied, "It's fine. If she wants to return, let her." 3 years ago I prevented the crown prince from missing Lin Yila, because I was afraid everything would truly develop into the wife-chasing crematorium plot from the novel. If the crown prince loved my sister to the point of death, he naturally would not have touched her family. How could I take revenge then? How could father receive the punishment he deserved? Now that father is dead and my great grudge has been avenged, I will no longer stop Lin Yila. Whether the crown prince loves her or whether she can love the crown prince, I no longer care. Su Yi observed my expression and said, "Madam, you need not worry. In these past few years, this servant has seen that the crown prince likes you more and more. Since you married into the Eastern Palace, the crown prince has indeed missed Lin Yila at first, but later we servants noticed he no longer mentioned her and grew even fonder of you. Even if Lin Yila returns to the capital, His Highness will not pay her any attention." I had married into the Eastern Palace. Su Yi knew how I had exhausted every effort back then to erase every trace of Lin Yila. She thought I was jealous of Lin Yila and afraid she would return to steal the crown prince. I was too lazy to explain. I said, "Who His Highness likes is his freedom. It's just that Lin Yila was living peacefully in Jiangnan. Why has she suddenly decided to come back? Or Su Yu go investigate." 1 day later, Su Yu reported, "Madam, many people in the capital are spreading rumors that this time you acted with great righteousness and helped His Highness gain face before His Majesty. His Highness wants to make you the crown princess. The news has even reached Jiangnan and everyone is discussing it." My hand paused while reading. No wonder my sister wanted to return to the capital. She could no longer sit still. However, her taking the initiative to return and the crown prince chasing after her to bring her back were 2 entirely different things. I wondered if she understood that. Besides, 3 years had passed. A man's heart had long since changed. I said, "Su Yu, prepare the guest room. We should welcome our honored guest." Su Yi answered, "Wes." I had never dreamed of becoming the crown princess. To sit in that position required extremely powerful family backing and a prestigious background. I had nothing in my hands and was only a concubine's daughter, whose mother had once been a maidservant. Becoming the crown princess would be harder than ascending to heaven. Even if I truly sat on that throne, I would face endless attacks and schemes. Right now I was living very well. Why invite trouble upon myself? If the future crown princess could tolerate me, I would live peacefully and mind my own small life behind closed doors. If she could not tolerate me, or if I decided to soar high and far, well, I would find a way to make her bedridden and too busy to bother with me. 2 days later, a carriage entered the capital. Lin Yila had returned. She did not go to the Duke Fu's mansion but headed straight for the crown prince's residence. A servant came to report, "Madam, someone outside claims to be your elder sister and requests an audience with His Highness the Crown Prince." She was in such a hurry. It was truly unusual. My curiosity grew stronger. I sat on the soft couch and said, "Let her in." "Yes, you. Send someone to inform His Highness." "Yes." Before long, Lin Yila walked in. "Your Highness the Crown Prince." The words caught in her throat the moment she saw me. Her eyes were extremely complicated. "Lin Yihua, it's you," I said. "Elder sister, long time no see." Lin Yila stared at me for a long time, then suddenly turned and shouted loudly, "Where is Long Minnie? I want to see Long Minnie." I could see her emotions were somewhat unstable. "Elder sister, don't be anxious. His Highness will return very soon." Lin Yila turned back to look at me, her eyes red. "Why? Why did it turn out like this?" "Why what?" I asked in confusion. "Clearly you are only the vicious female supporting character. I am the female lead. Why didn't Long Minnie a Jiangnan to find me? Why did he make you the crown princess instead? Did you do something?" I was stunned. "So elder sister also knows about the novel." Lin Yila was shocked. "You know too." She lowered her head and muttered, no wonder the plot didn't follow the novel. Mother died, the crown prince didn't chase after me, didn't come to Jiangnan to find me, and the Duke Fu's mansion fell." Her entire body trembled, tears streaming down her face. I finally understood why she had hurried back on her own initiative and rushed straight here. It turned out she knew she was living inside the novel and was the female lead, yet the plot had completely diverged from the original. Not only had the crown prince failed to enact the wife-chasing crematorium arc, rumors had even spread that he wanted to make me the crown princess. No wonder she had lost control of her emotions and rushed back to the capital. It was just that she had awakened a little too late. Perhaps this was also heaven's arrangement. I said gently. He did send people to Jiangnan to look for you. When he saw you living with your man, he did not want to disturb you. What? Lin Yila's scream was almost hoarse. I could see she was truly shocked. He came to find me. I nodded. My sister's body swayed. Impossible. If he came to find me and saw Tang Feng, he should have loved me even more. How could he have given up so easily? I watched quietly as she crumbled. She suddenly raised her head, hatred flashing in her eyes. "It's you. It's you who knew the plot and slandered me, deliberately obstructing everything. It's you scheming. Do you know how long I waited for 3 years? You are truly vicious." "Lin Yua." I bowed. "Your Highness." The crown prince walked in from outside. Lin Yila turned her head. The moment she saw the crown prince, joy filled her face. She rushed forward to seek confirmation. "Long Minnie, you once went to Jiangnan to find me. You love me, don't you? Was it Lin Yua who slandered me that made you unwilling to bring me back to the capital?" The crown prince frowned and pulled his hand away. Lin Yila questioned him frantically. "Long Minnie, the person you love most is me, right? You love me, don't you?" The crown prince shoved her to the ground with one hand. "Even if you want to cause a scene, you should know your place. Who would like a woman like you who already has a husband?" Lin Yila hurriedly stood up. "No. Tang Feng and I have no relationship at all. We never consummated anything. I am still pure." Su Yi said, "So you shared a room with that man for 3 years in Jiangnan, yet never consummated the relationship?" Lin Yila pointed at Su Yu. "Long Mingie, did you hear that? She is Lin Yua's maid. She knows my whereabouts. She has been monitoring me. It's Lin Yihua playing tricks to sow discord between us." Silence. The crown prince said coldly, "I was the one who told Yua to keep an eye on your situation so she could help arrange your livelihood in my place. Did you really think the handkerchiefs you made, and the wild mushrooms and herbs you sold were rare treasures that could fetch such high prices? And those cakes you made? Did you honestly believe you were some great master who could take them to a restaurant and exchange them for 100 taels of silver?" My sister stood frozen. The crown prince continued, "Don't think too highly of yourself. The shop you opened. If Yua and I had not secretly helped from behind, do you think you could have opened it smoothly? Opening a shop in a bustling area without any official backing. How could you have operated it long term? The local thugs and ruffians alone would have been enough to ruin you. It was all thanks to Yua worrying about you. Yet the moment you return to the capital, you slander her." My sister could not believe it. "Impossible. This is impossible. You are lying to me. Your Highness, you love me, don't you? You cannot say such things." My sister's entire body shook. "Long Mingie, I am the female lead, and you are the male lead. You were born to love me. How can you scold me like this?" I sighed softly. After Lin Yila learned about the novel and discovered the plot had gone wrong, She had desperately rushed back to try to win the crown prince. She believed that, because she was the female lead, the crown prince had to love her. She had even stormed straight into the residence to cause a scene. Unfortunately, a novel was still just a novel. I said to the crown prince, "Your Highness, this consort asks to be excused. The love between the male and female leads had nothing to do with me, and I had no desire to watch what came next." The moment my sister took the initiative to return to the capital to win back the crown prince, she had already lost. A man would never cherish a woman who threw herself at him, especially when he did not even like her to begin with. If she continued to pester him, it would only make him despise her more. I left the main hall and returned to my own courtyard. My legitimate sister had never actively harmed me, so I would not actively harm her either. Moreover, my great revenge had already been taken. If she wanted to become the crown princess, I would not stop her. It was just that back then she had turned a blind eye to my suffering, so in the future when she encountered trouble, I would do the same. Not long after, Suyu came to report. Lingers has been driven out of the residence. I was slightly surprised. Driven out?
Yes.
I originally thought that out of past affection, His Highness would keep Lingers for a few days. I never expected him to be so heartless and throw her out directly. A moment later, the steward also came to report the matter and added, "Madam, His Highness was afraid you would overthink and specifically instructed this old servant to tell you that he will absolutely not allow Lingers into the residence." After the steward left, Suyu smiled and said, "Madam, His Highness really likes you. I had not expected it to be for this reason." I felt a little surprised, yet also a little indifferent. In the following days, my sister continued to linger around the area. Her money quickly ran out and she nearly ended up wandering the streets. Once when I went out, I happened to encounter her and casually reminded her, "Elder sister, you should not stay here any longer." It was very dangerous for a young woman to be alone on the streets, especially after dark. My sister was furious. "Lingers, don't try to scare me. 3 years ago I lived safely in that small town in Jiangnan. Now I am under the feet of the Son of Heaven in the prosperous capital. How could it be dangerous?" I stopped walking. "That was because His Highness ordered me to send people to protect you. Otherwise, how could you have gone into the mountains alone multiple times to pick mushrooms and wild vegetables?" Lingers froze, then said coldly, "Lingers, make yourself clear. I am the female lead and you are only the vicious female supporting character who is destined to die. You are chasing me away because you are afraid I will steal the crown prince and win back his affection, right?" I asked her in return, "Did the crown prince ever like you?" Lingers was stunned. I said, "Back then you chased after him relentlessly, yet wasn't he still indifferent?" Lingers said, He loved me without realizing it. Sooner or later he will have a great awakening." I shook my head, turned and left, ignoring her from then on. In the Wife, Chasing Crematorium novel, after the female lead left, the male lead would fight heaven and earth, achieve great things. My sister went to Jiangnan, picked mushrooms and wild vegetables in the mountains to sell on the streets, and used the cooking skills she learned from the Duke Fu's mansion to make cakes. She was valued by the local restaurant and exchanged them for 100 taels of silver. Then she used that 100 taels to open a shop, and her life became extremely prosperous. Back when I finished reading the novel, I had laughed. I didn't know what kind of author who had never seen the real world would write such a story. In this era, famines and poor harvests happened frequently. Unless it was deep in the remote mountains, the wild mushrooms and vegetables near the city had long been dug up by others. How could my sister casually pick them? Even if she did, she wouldn't be able to sell them for much. The crown prince had ordered me to take care of my sister. When she wanted to dig for mushrooms and wild vegetables, I had people secretly buy the entire mountain near her so she could pick alone. After she picked them, I had people purchase her goods at high prices. As for her cooking skills, in this era, there was no patent protection. Cake recipes were not absolute secrets and could never be sold for 100 taels. Besides, my sister was the legitimate young miss. Even if she entered the kitchen, she only did it for show. How could she have made everything from start to finish by hand? So that recipe was not only incomplete but also very ordinary. Yet I still had people pay a heavy price to buy it, as a disguised way of giving her money. Oh, that's right. The novel wrote that my sister revealing herself to do business made her a different kind of great female lead, as if all other women in the world were useless trash and only she was outstanding. But in this era, aside from the upper nobility who avoided letting their daughters go out in order to raise their status, there was no rule forbidding women from appearing in public. The farming couples in the fields all worked together. If women did not go out to work and relied only on the men to farm, the entire family would starve. The reason women rarely went out to do business was not because they were all useless, but because of complicated reasons and countless obstacles. One of which was that it was extremely dangerous for a woman to go out alone. Perhaps a few thousand years later, a woman going alone to a remote place would not be harmed, but in this era bandits ran rampant, travel was difficult, and even candles were precious. Once a woman got lost or was captured, no one would notice. On top of that, the constables' tracking skills were poor. Most cases of murder or sale into slavery became unsolved injustices. The reason my sister had been able to live safely until now was largely thanks to the devoted male supporting characters' efforts, as well as the people the Crown Prince had sent who had spent no small amount of energy protecting her. Yet she knew nothing about it. She truly was a sheltered young miss who had never suffered and was far too naive. I left Lin to her own devices. What surprised me was that the Crown Prince also acted as if he had not seen her. I watched him walk past Lin with an emotionless face. In that instant, I remembered what Father had said in prison and seemed to understand something. Father had once doted on my mother, but deep in his heart he had always looked down on her. The Crown Prince was even more noble. How could he truly value Lin? She was the daughter of a criminal minister and had never contributed anything significant to him. He had already spent 3 years taking care of her. Now that Lin was pestering him endlessly, he probably despised her even more. Oh, that's right. The novel said the male lead tormented the female lead in every way, ignored her goodness, and only awakened after she left, loving her to the point of life and death and opening the wife, chasing crematorium arc. Looking at it now, that statement needed reconsideration. If a man truly liked a woman, how could he bear to torment her continuously? It was very possible that the Crown Prince had never liked Lin from the beginning and looked down on her from the bottom of his heart. That was why the novel's description of him abandoning everything to chase after her in Jiangnan could never have happened. To maintain his position as Crown Prince, he was willing to sacrifice anything. How could he act so irrationally? Perhaps even if I had not erased every trace of Lin back then, the Crown Prince still would not have thrown everything away to enact the wife, chasing crematorium arc, nor would he have made a woman who had run away from home his crown princess. The so-called wife chasing crematorium was nothing more than a woman's own one-sided delusion. I sighed deeply. Madam, what are you thinking about? I said, see you. When a man always acts as if he does not like you, yet regrets it after you leave. Is that love? Su Yu smiled. Madam, that is not love. That is simply unwillingness to let go. Once he truly has you, he will discard you like old rags very quickly. Unwillingness to let go. I nodded. The Crown Prince was extremely busy and often absent from the residence. Lin seemed unaware of this and continued lingering around every day. One day Su Yu came to report. Madam, a man dragged Lin away, claiming she was his wife. My hand paused. It was the devoted male supporting character after all. Tang Feng, Su Yi said. No. Tang Feng has always liked Lin but she refused to marry him for 3 years. This time she even returned to the capital to find the Crown Prince, so Tang Feng finally gave up all hope. He has already married the woman his family arranged for him and did not come to the capital. I said, oh. Su Yi asked, Madam, do you need to help Lin I said, back then in the mansion she turned a blind eye to my suffering. Why should I help her? A young woman alone on the streets. I already reminded her to be careful, yet she refused to listen. I will not lift a finger now. The Crown Prince only returned to the residence half a month later. He did not even ask about the woman named Lin Court struggles were fierce, and he had far too many matters to handle. He was simply too busy. I reminded him, elder sister has not appeared for a very long time. The Crown Prince waved his hand. No need to concern yourself with her. He paused, then added, oh, that's right. In a few days the Crown Princess will marry into the residence. Once she has consummated the marriage, you no longer need to drink the contraceptive soup. I bowed. Thank you, Your Highness. The Crown Prince stroked the hair at my temple. It has been hard on you. I said, Your Highness, I am your person. For your great cause, this consort does not feel it is a hardship. Back then I had been the one to suggest drinking the contraceptive soup. Because the principal consort had run away, a side consort like me had entered the residence first. If I gave birth to an eldest son before the crown princess arrived, the crown prince would never be able to marry a proper crown princess. The palace would definitely force me to drink the soup anyway, so I might as well propose it myself. That way the crown prince and the empress would feel indebted to me. Besides, at the time I was not sure how long I would live. If I had a child, I would have ties that prevented me from taking revenge with a free hand. I did not love Long Mingy. He acted as if he loved me deeply, but I did not believe it. This world placed far too many restraints on women. I could not freely leave the residence to live the life I wanted, but the result I had now was already very satisfying. For this vicious female supporting character to have lived until today was already escaping the original plot. If I could not leave the Eastern Palace, then I would simply meet every scheme with a countermove and face whatever comes my way. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like,